Roy, thank you very much, and welcome to a Sunday night here in the Bronx, Yankee Stadium, for the third and final game of the series between the Yankees and the visiting Los Angeles Angels. This is Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell. The Angels with a big win on Friday night, 13-1. The Yankees coming back with a 4-3 win yesterday afternoon. They will settle it all here tonight. Albert Pujols, Derek Jeter, a couple of future Hall of Famers exchanging pleasantries out behind second base before the start of tonight's game. As we welcome you inside Yankee Stadium, Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Buster Olney will join us momentarily. Well, you have heard about him, read about him, but have you seen him yet? He'll be on the mound for the Yankees tonight, and a lot of the Angel hitters are talking about facing Masahiro Tanaka for the first time tonight.
Yeah, and it's not glowing reports they're getting on him as far as the ability to put the ball in play. He has such a repertoire of pitches, 7 pitches we are told he has, 2 splits, 2 different fastballs, couple different breaking balls. He has everything going for him, but they think the thing that's most impressive about him is the way he can break down what a hitter's trying to do to him within the at-bat and make adjustments within the at-bat to get people out.
And as you saw from the numbers, 35 strikeouts against only 2 walks. Through his first 4 games of the season, he has been outstanding. But did you know the team that he's going to face tonight, the Angels, entering play today, are the highest scoring team in baseball, 5.6 runs per game, and they're led, as you might expect, by Mike Trout and Albert Pujols.
Yeah, 2 guys already off to great starts. We knew Mike Trout would get off to a great start. He's the best player in baseball as far as being able to do everything: power, speed, hit for average, get on base, create havoc with his legs, or can take you out of the park if you make a mistake. But Albert Pujols is the guy, Dan, that they didn't know what to expect from him. Now, he did have surgery in the offseason. He got healthy, and that base is back again. His balance is back, and the ball's flying out of the ballpark. 9 home runs already this season, which he reaches 500 this past week.
And a little bit earlier, he spoke with our Buster Olney.
Albert, this week you hit your 500th home run. What was the best part of that moment?
Well, I think the best part of the moment, well, there was 2 parts of that moment. It was one, just going around the base and praising God, for just giving me the opportunity. And the second one, it was just to share with my team in the field. When I put my head up, I was able to embrace by my teammates, and that's something, a moment that I will never forget. And those 2 moments there were pretty amazing for me in my career.
In getting ready for this game, you're preparing for Masahiro Tanaka. What did you learn about him?
I just see the ball and hitter. I don't want to change my approach. He's the one that need to make adjustment. I don't. I know the league already, and I don't know him, but I got videos, and I'm just going to try to take my game plan out there and execute. If it doesn't work, then try to make my adjustment.
Albert, thanks. Dan, back to you.
Buster, thank you. Masahiro Tanaka. In his 5th start of the season, he is 3-0 so far. With an ERA just over 2, will face Albert Pujols, Mike Trout, and the high-scoring Angels. Also coming up tonight, Crucky will break down one of the game's most devastating splitters, and Barry will have his web gems of the day from the studio. First pitch is next. By Taco Bell, Masahiro Tanaka on the mound for the Yankees tonight in the rubber match of this 3-game series between the Yankees and the Los Angeles Angels. We'll take a look now at the starting lineup for the Angels tonight, presented by Taco Bell. And as we mentioned, led by Trout and Pujols. Even without the injured Josh Hamilton, this team has been scoring in droves this year. They come into the game tonight leading the major leagues in home runs and also leading the major leagues in runs per game at 5.6 runs per game. Trout has 6 homers. Pujols has 9 homers. Mike Scioscia's offense is clicking right now. So this will be a tough test for Tanaka and the Yankees. Tanaka is 25 years of age. He is 6'2", 205, coming off that remarkable year in Japan last year and off to a great start here with the Yankees.
A really good start. And then, you know, when players come over from Japan, you had an expectation he was going to be good. I don't think the Yankees even knew he was going to be this good. How impressed they are with his tenacity, but also with his knowledge of the game, how he wants to dissect the hitter. When Brian McCann talked glowingly about that in spring training, you knew they had something special.
It'll be Colin Cowgill leading it off for the Angels tonight. Bill Welke's our home plate umpire. Dan Iasonia is at first. C.B. Buckner at second. And Hal Gibson at third. Cowgill playing for his 5th different major league team. Steps in, and we are ready to go here on a cool night in the Bronx. And a first pitch fastball is there for a strike. Tanaka has thrown fastballs anywhere from about 90 up to 95 miles an hour. It's not so much that he's overpowering. It's how many different pitches and how well he locates all of those different pitches. Off the end of the bat, foul, 0-2.
Starting off first pitch 90, second pitch 89, but they'll tell you when he gets in trouble and he needs it to reach back, he can get up there, like you said, Dan, to a 95, and it kind of takes the hitter by surprise.
And often the splitter has been a 2-strike put-away pitch for Tanaka so far this season. Went with a slider there, and you can see the displeasure on the face of Tanaka. He hung that pitch right over the middle of the plate.
Wow, he's lucky he hung it on 2 strikes, because in 2 strikes you're more of in a defensive mode. He hangs that 2-strike pitch like that to Trout or Albert Pujols. That's a point on the board.
You could see where McCann was, and Tanaka missed his spot quite badly, which he has rarely done so far this year. And there's a swing and a miss to get him a much better pitch there to strike out Cowgill.
He made the adjustment tremendously. The first one, 0-2 hanger to Cowgill, and then this one here. This is a perfect 0-2 pitch because it starts out on the outer half of the plate. Look how it just breaks down and out of the strike zone. You know, you're seeing that ball for probably 50 feet as a strike, and then the last 10 feet it breaks out of the zone. There's no way you can lay off of it.
Now Trout. And first pitch swinging, a ground ball, base hit through the left side for Mike Trout.
I was reading that Mike Trout went 100 or 20-something at bats without swinging at the first pitch, but this is a different guy you have to attack like that. If he throws an 80-pitch complete game, let him have it, but you can't let him throw fastballs down the middle to get ahead 0-1 and then try to hit the split and the slider, and that's it right there. Fastball on the outer half, and the strength, and I mean, guy's a superstar.
And all of 22 years of age.
Yeah, he's an old guy.
Been the runner-up for MVP each of the last 2 years in the American League to Miguel Cabrera of Detroit. Very good speed at first, of course, and a very hot hitter at the plate in Albert Pujols, who's already got 9 home runs on the season. And Trout running a little more selectively this year, 3 for 3 stealing, batting right in front of Pujols. And Mike Scioscia so happy when he was talking to us about Pujols before the game. He's healthy. The plantar fasciitis has been dealt with. And it kind of looks like the Pujols of 5-6 years ago so far this year, back when he was with the Cardinals. And one of the big reasons the Angels have been successful is both Trout and Pujols have been ridiculously good in first innings, and the Angels, in fact, as a team, Crucky, are outscoring their opponents 25-6 in the first inning.
Yeah, and that's huge. And you know, Trout already got his hit, so you got a feeling Albert's going to get his. He can't let Trout pass him up in the first inning batting average race.
You saw the shift. Chase that slider, about knee high, just off the outside corner, 1-1.
Yeah, he went very soft on both those first two pitches, did Tanaka. First one a slow breaking ball for ball one. That one another slow breaking ball. Albert guessing fastball and got fooled by it. I think he's going to stay slow.
Ran a two-seamer, it looked like, in under his hands, 1-2.
That's smart pitching because he embarrassed him kind of on the 0-1 or 1-0 pitch, and now he comes back with that two-seamer running in under his hands. But this is a situation here where Albert, with the shift on, he will give himself up and hit the ball the other way. And if he does, I don't care how good an arm Beltran has in right field, Trout's going to third after they pitch out or after they throw over.
Trout stole 49 bases 2 years ago, 33 last year, just 3 for 3 so far this year. But Mike Scioscia says he's not told don't run when Albert's up. He still has the green light to be aggressive.
And this is probably the best time, unless you're guessing pitch out from Brian McCann and Tanaka. This is a good pitch because you got a feeling you're not going to throw him a fastball here. It gives Trout a better opportunity.
He went, and Pujols strikes out.
Wow. Yeah, he went. I thought they weren't giving the future Hall of Famer the benefit of the doubt there, but he went.
Yeah, he did. So 2 strikeouts so far in the inning for Tanaka. Trout is still at first. The batter was Howie Kendrick. And now will Trout be in motion?
I think at some point in this at bat to Kendrick, you got to go. And if you're Kendrick, you'd wish he would go early.
And the Yankees thinking the same thing. Kendrick, not your prototypical cleanup hitter. Remember, Josh Hamilton is injured for the Angels. So you got some guys hitting in spots you wouldn't think they would be assigned to, but it is still working for them. Kendrick's a guy who's hit second, he's hit 6-7, but he's a cleanup hitter right now for the Angels.
Historically, lifetime against the Yankees, very good too. That could play into it.
Ninth year in the big leagues, all of them with the Angels, a .292 career hitter, and there's what Crucky was talking about. Very good numbers against the Yankees in his career.
Well, he has the ability to hit the ball the other way, and in this ballpark, that plays really well.
Trout not going, and it's ball 2 to Kendrick. The Angels come in 11-12 on the season. The Yankees are 14-10. They've split the first 2 games of the series.
And this is the situation you want to see what Tanaka does here to Kendrick, because it's 2-0. Probably going to throw a fastball, and he's not overpowering. This is when Kendrick has to try to jump on one.
Lays off outside, ball 3. Tanaka, remember, has walked only 2 batters in his first 4 starts. And with the strikeouts he's already gotten tonight, he's now got 37 punch-outs.
And this is where you could see the green light. He doesn't want to walk anyone. That's obvious by only 2 walks in his 4 starts. Give Kendrick a chance here, 3-0.
And a strike.
That's what makes it different. The hardest pitch he's thrown in this first inning so far is a 3-0 pitch. It tells you that he's thinking along with, well, sadly, me. He might have thought Kendrick was swinging too.
This ball hit down the right side and headed out of play. The count now runs full on Kendrick. So now Trout will be on the move. 2 down and a full count. Teixeira's come off the bag and will play right behind the runner instead of being on the bag holding him on.
I think if I'm the Yankees, I would hold him on. If you're going to play that close to him, hold him on. Because if he hits a long single that gets cut off by an outfielder in a gap, he could score with this big jump he's going to get.
Down the right side. Pretty deep, but foul. Plenty deep, but foul.
That's what I was talking about. Kendrick has that ability to hit the ball the other way. Plays well in this ballpark. Now if you're Tanaka, okay, you know, I've thrown 2 fastballs. He's hit them foul down the right field line. One had home run distance. Does he dare go off speed? I think he has the guts to do it.
Another pitch to hit there for Kendrick, but he fouls it back again. 16 pitches in. I don't think we've seen the splitter yet. We've seen a few sliders, but no splitters.
Yeah, not yet. But Dan, you know, that's what happens when you have a guy that has, as I call them, trick pitches, the splitters, and you know they say he has 2 different ones. But you get very tentative on the fastball because you're always anticipating, is he going to throw it, especially with 2 strikes. You know, and that's why you're late on balls, you know, fastballs, because you're kind of protecting against the splitter.
3-2 coming again. And it's inside at the belt for ball 4. 8 pitch at a bat and just the 3rd walk surrendered by Tanaka this season. So the Angels still with something going on, and Eric Ibar will come up, the shortstop and number 5 hitter, who until an 0 for yesterday had been as hot as anybody. He was 11 for his last 17 before taking an 0 for yesterday afternoon.
And that's what you love about Mike Scioscia. You know, this is an American League team. The American League teams are supposed to be the power teams with the DH and everything. But you know, Mike Scioscia has a Howie Kendrick, not a big power guy, hitting 4th, and Eric Ibar, really not much power at all, hitting 5th. But yet here they are leading the league in runs scored.
One interesting thing about Tanaka, normally you talk about hitters making adjustments to a pitcher. Well, Tanaka appears to be making adjustments to the hitters because they've gotten him 314 first time through the lineup, just 149 after that. Again, small sample size, just 4 starts. Is that the splitter there?
It looks like the first 2 pitches were, yeah. And I think you're seeing, okay, I have 1st and 2nd right now. I gave up a single, walked a guy on a 3-2 pitch that was close. So, you know, now it's time to get an out, and yeah, you can see it right there. Yep. The split fingers, the tumble, and there it goes,
straight down.
Looks like a fastball at the knees when it's getting close to home plate, and then it just drops. Why not throw it again?
And he did, but this time Ibar lays off.
And I guarantee if that was a straight fastball at the knees, Ibar wouldn't have swung at it either. He was sitting splitter and knew he wasn't going to swing at it if he threw it.
A very important pitch in the arsenal of Masahiro Tanaka, better than 22% of the time. Angels threatening here in the 1st. Swung at that splitter, and the inning is over. So a base hit and a walk, but 3 strikeouts as well, and the Angels leave a couple of men on. Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell Breakfast. Wake up, live Moss. And in part by Chevrolet. Celebrate the new season with Chevrolet. Share your excitement using hashtag the new. To the bottom of the first here in the Bronx. Tanaka and the Yankees. Pujols and the Angels. In a scoreless game after Tanaka struck out Ibar to strand a couple of runners in the top half of the inning. A look at the Yankee lineup now, brought to you by Taco Bell, and what an addition so far Jacoby Ellsbury has been, hitting over 300. He's already got 8 stolen bases on the season. Of course, stole 52 last year as a member of the Red Sox. And another newcomer to the Bronx, Carlos Beltran, is also off to a solid start. 5 home runs and 13 driven in for Beltran, who is one of the game's great switch hitters and has been for many, many years.
Yeah, Dan, we keep talking about Derek Jeter and Albert Pujols being surefire Hall of Famers, and Carlos Beltran's right there too with what he's done as a switch hitter. But you know, this is the versatility that Joe Girardi has in the lineup. When Mark Teixeira was out, Jacoby Ellsbury hit third. Now he's back to lead off because Teixeira's back in the lineup.
And a power arm on the mound tonight for the Angels.
Big power arm. And Jared Weaver told him, he said once he figures out command of his secondary pitches, he said he's going to be one of the best in the game.
Ellsbury shows bunt, and he takes high ball 1.
But he also did say that in this environment, being the Yankees, of course, in Yankee Stadium, and Sunday night game, which we appreciate Jared for saying that. He said if he can harness his emotions, he's going to be great.
Fastball can be 95, 96 miles an hour. He can cut it. He can run it away from a left-handed batter with a 2-seamer, improving secondary pitches, slider, curveball, occasional change.
He's going to make his living with the old number 1.
Yep.
But he has to command it.
Ground ball hit out to second. Easy play for Kendrick to keep Ellsbury off the bases. And now Jeter. Jeter in his final season will turn 40 in June. He's hitting .292 so far this year. This is his 20th start of the season in the Yankees' 25th game. He's got at least a hit in 16 of the 19 games so far. And maybe everybody wanted to get one last look at him. If this is your only game, you never know when it might be Derek Jeter's last game, especially if this is your only ticket to the Bronx this year.
And the flash bulbs are going, and everyone wants the picture.
The Yankees' regular season will end in Boston. The last home game for the Yankees will be the final Thursday of the regular season against the Baltimore Orioles.
Think about how hard it is to play 20 years in one place, and you haven't upset a fan yet.
Yeah, Mariano Rivera could say the same thing.
Yeah, it's amazing how that works. That's why I just stayed in places a couple years. I had to get out. Well, they ran me out more than.
There's great a cutter there. It looked like great late movement on that fastball from Richards at 95.
I mean, that's dare we say Mariano-like. I mean, that was a hard cutter. When I first saw the pitch, I thought that has to be a slider. And then you look at the miles per hour at 95. Good luck, Yankees.
Mike Scioscia said of Richards before the game, he's a stuff guy. And you can see he's got the stuff. 97 down and in. Movement on that fastball, too. And he rings up Jeter.
Well, this is to me where the game of baseball has changed dramatically with these guys with the high velocities, but able to make the ball move at those velocities. Now, here's the 2-1 pitch. It's 95 cutter. Look at that pitch. You know, Derek thinks it's a pitch down and away. I'm going to go after it, and it cuts out of zone. And then that one, he throws it, and Derek thinks, okay, this is going to cut too, and it runs down on his ankles.
You know, the big names on the staff are Jared Weaver and C.J. Wilson. But if the Angels are to contend this year, they're going to need a lot more depth out of their starting rotation. And it might be the young guys, Skaggs, Santiago, and this guy right here, Garrett Richards, who might lead them there.
Well, Jared Weaver, without hesitation, said that by far he has the best stuff in our rotation. And, you know, for a guy that's done the things that Jared Weaver has to basically say, you know, I passed the torch to him, it's a pretty big big thing for Garrett Richards.
Here's Beltran with 2 down and nobody on.
I asked Jared before the game, I said, do you talk to him? Because, Richards is a kind of a crossover pitcher, throws across his body. And he said, John, he throws 98, I throw 86. What can I teach him?
Weekly hit towards second. And a very impressive start tonight for Garrett Richards, getting the Yankees in order in the bottom of the first. No score at the end of 1. Masahiro Tanaka back to the mound when we come back. The Bronx this Sunday night. No scores. We go to the top of the second. Tanaka had to work hard in the top of the first. Gave up a base hit and a walk, but also struck out 3 batters. He'll face David Freese here to begin the second, and he starts him with a slow curveball for a strike. It's 71 miles an hour to Freese. First year as an Angel. Came over in a deal with the Cardinals and really scuffling so far. I got another breaking ball, and he hits it a long way to center field, but it will stay in the park for Ellsbury. Well, a little bit more on Masahiro Tanaka. Holds the Japanese high school record for the most strikeouts in a career. Made his professional debut at the age of 18 back in 2007, and last year a remarkable year, 24-0 with a 1.27 ERA, and then he signed an enormous contract with the Yankees as a free agent. A couple of other things to know. He actually did lose a game last year. It came in Game 6 of the Japan series. Threw 160 pitches in that game. Lost it. Came back the next day and got the save in Game 7 as Rakuten, his team, won the Japan series. And I think that's something that is maybe a bit of a misconception about him when we go over his bio. He's only 25. I think a lot of people think he's 28, 29 years old. He's 25.
Yeah, very young, very strong, very durable. And that's, when the Yankees signed him, you hear people saying, I wonder how his arm is. He threw 160 pitches. A lot of concerns with other GMs. He's 25, and he's playing for the championship. If you have to throw 160 pitches, throw 160 pitches.
Here's Ian Stewart getting the start at third base tonight for the Angels, a former Colorado Rocky and a guy who was in the Cubs system at AAA last year. And with Freese struggling, Stewart's getting more at bats lately. Got a piece of the 0-2.
I mean, what would you rather have with the same ability as Tanaka? A Tanaka that says, you know, I've thrown enough pitches in the 7th inning, get me out of the championship game, or a guy that says I'm throwing 160 or whatever it takes. I'll take that guy.
0-2 pitch a little bit inside as we send it down to Buster.
Guys, two of Tanaka's teammates last year were Casey McGee and Andrew Jones. And Casey McGee told me that after he threw those 160 pitches, the next day he came in and he looked like he was preparing to pitch. Casey McGee called over a translator, asked him, he said, "Are you really going to do this?" And he told him, "If we have a lead, I'm going to pitch in the 9th inning." And that's exactly what he did.
So you know he's competitive. You know he's young and healthy. You know he's got 7 different pitches. You know he throws strikes. There's a lot of good things going for him.
And you also know that it's not about him. It's about winning in the team. And you know, the shortstop for the Yankees, basically that's has been his whole career. It's about winning. That's all you hear him talk about. It's about winning. It's not about 3,000 hits. It's about winning. And now they have a pitcher who has a chance to become their ace of their staff quickly, who's all about winning.
Is Chris Iannetta the catcher?
Too many guys out there who have great stuff, and you know, once they reach that 90, 100 pitch mark, you know, they start looking and wanting to come out of a game. I don't think this guy's one of them.
Pulled foul. And with some of the other things going on in the Yankee rotation, Ivan Nova out for the year, elbow surgery. Pineda, of course, is suspended right now. Will miss a couple of starts. Kuroda got knocked around on Friday. I mean, you knew before the season Tanaka would be important, but I think that's grown over the last couple of weeks.
Well, it's become of greater need to the New York Yankees that he remains great, you know, in this stretch until guys come back from suspension. You know, and CC's pitching better, and I think that's a huge boost too to the Yankees. That, you know, he seems to have figured out, how do I pitch without 95.
The Yankees right now are the leaders in the American League East, a division that collectively has not gotten off to a great start, although they've been playing in the division each other a lot so far here in April. So the records are going to be somewhat skewed towards 500 because of that. But you know, Tampa Bay's had their injuries in the rotation, and the Red Sox have had their struggles, and the Yankees are on top of the division right now.
Yeah, and it's not really a surprise. We kind of figured that you know, 4 teams could vie for the NL East or AL East title. You know, we didn't discount the Yankees out because of the great moves they made this offseason.
And how about Tanaka, who only walked 2 batters in his first 4 starts, has already walked 2 here tonight in the first inning and 2/3.
Maybe he can't take the big stage, Dan.
Collects his thoughts a little bit towards the back of the mound with 2 outs and a man on. He'll now face the number 9 hitter, left fielder J.B. Shuck, hitting just 164, hit 293 for the Angels a year ago. And a fastball runs off the outside corner, ball 1. Even in the first inning when he struck out 3 and got out of it, his command was not pinpoint. He had some deep counts and some long at bats.
The only at bat that he commanded his pitches was the strikeout to Ibar, and he threw him 4 splits, and that's how he got the out. But I mean, none of them were for strikes. They were all swung at, though.
There's a strike at the knees. A lot of the Angels up on the top step, wanting to get a close look, first-hand look for the first time at Masahiro Tanaka.
I know Jared Weaver told me he was excited to see him pitch because he's read so much about him.
And that will end the inning. Solarte feeds Jeter to force Iannetta. No score going to the bottom of the 2nd. Yankee Stadium in the Bronx as we go to the bottom of the second here on Sunday Night Baseball. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, and Buster Olney as Brian McCann leads off the inning for the Yankees. The shift is on for the Angels as McCann takes a strike over the outside corner. And good cutting action again on that fastball in under the hands of McCann, and quickly Richards, who was very impressive in the first, is out in front 0-2 on McCann. Curveball misses. By the way, at the end of the last inning I said Solarte feeding Jeter. It is Roberts. Roberts was a late replacement for Solarte at second base for the Yankees. Solarte with a sore shoulder, so Roberts in for him. McCann does a good job just to barely get a piece of the ball. And that is Stewart, the third baseman, playing over on the right side in the shift, making the play for the first out. Well, ESPN's got more Major League Baseball action coming your way. Monday Night Baseball presented by USAA. The Oakland A's taking on the Texas Rangers, and it'll be Yu Darvish for the Rangers, Sonny Gray for the Athletics. The Rays and the Red Sox on Wednesday Night Baseball. And 1 week from tonight, we will be at historic Wrigley Field, which just celebrated its 100th birthday for the Cardinals and the Cubs. And not only that, Mr. Kruk, but you and I will have the pleasure of broadcasting the game from the bleachers in right field at Wrigley.
Well, if they're anything like they were when I played, Dan, you better wear earplugs. And we better have a 7-second delay.
And not for you, for them.
For that? Oh,
for
yeah,
them.
not for me. I'm under control.
But now you're cuddly and lovable. They'll have nothing but good things to say to you.
Yeah, I doubt that, Dan. I doubt that very much. It was borderline abuse.
Really?
Some of the things they said, yes.
Time heals all wounds, right?
But no.
No?
Oh, I wouldn't.
I've been to Wrigley and sat in the stands. I've never sat in the bleachers. Have you ever sat in the bleachers?
I've never sat in the stands in Wrigley, and
really?
I've always wanted to. And I've always wanted to sit out in the bleacher with the bleacher bums, so they're called. But this is going to be exciting.
It'll be an experience.
I wanted to go there without having to worry about a job. I just wanted to go there as a fan.
Joe Girardi told us before the game, a former Cub, when he played, and we asked him if he'd ever sat in the bleachers, and he said that he and his wife, back when they were at Northwestern, took the train down and went to Wrigley Field, and Milt Thompson hit a home run ball that his wife outfought somebody for. Yeah, he basically said she stepped on his hand. She stepped on a guy's hand, took the ball away. Took the ball away. I mean, that's a woman you just say, okay, honey, let's get married. You know, let's not fool around with this thing anymore. Let's just get serious, because I'm afraid of you. Well, we're looking forward to it. From the bleachers in right field, 1 week from tonight, could be Michael Wacha and Jeff Samardzija. By the way, not bad. Yeah, that would be a great matchup, because Samardzija's winless, but he's pitched fantastic. And if the All-Star game was next week, I would have to say he would be the Cubs representative. And Michael Wacha is it's amazing, these young kids, how poised they are. And Michael Wacha is as poised as anyone. Pitched great last year in the postseason. Pulled foul by Teixeira. The count remains 2-2. The Cubs today beat Milwaukee 4-0. Jason Hamill pitched well. A rare loss for Milwaukee. The Cubs snapped a 4-game losing streak. And St. Louis shut out Pittsburgh 7-0. How about Adam Wainwright? 8 innings, 3 hits. He's got a 25-inning scoreless streak right now as he becomes baseball's first 5-game winner. Richards strikes out Teixeira. 6 up and 6 down through 2. We'll see Mike Trout and Albert Pujols both coming up for the Angels in the top of the third. Top third here in the Bronx. No score. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. The Angels and the Yankees. Top of the order for the Angels against Masahiro Tanaka, Colin Cowgill, Mike Trout, and Albert Pujols. And that's a fair ball. Skipping all the way down into the corner, and Cowgill is into second base with a leadoff double, which will bring Mike Trout to the plate with a runner in scoring position. And Trout, widely acknowledged right now as the best player in baseball. Where'd he come from? Millville, New Jersey. Threw a no-hitter, was a pitcher some in high school, threw a no-hitter. First-round pick, but 25th overall. How many teams are kicking themselves now in hindsight for not taking Mike Trout, and had a ridiculously good season in 2012. The only player ever with 30 or more homers, 45 or more steals, 125 or more runs hit for the cycle in 2013, has been the runner-up for MVP twice, and you got to believe he's going to win a few maybe before it's all said and done.
Yeah, he'll have more than one. I can almost guarantee you that. He's too good not to. And this is an interesting at bat for me because Cowgill leads off with a double. Trout's job as the second hitter is to try to move him over, but he's a power guy. I mean, he can hit the ball out of the ballpark. Do you want him to give himself up in the third inning of a game to try to hit the ball the other way to move a runner? Now, he can hit it over the fence the other way. That would be, I'm sure Mike Scioscia wouldn't mind.
And there's his family here. His mom, Debbie, his dad, Jeff, who played in the Twins organization, and his brother, Tyler. Looking on as Mike Trout battles Tanaka. Runner at second, nobody out, no score, top third. There's been, as he doesn't go there's been so much talk. His ability is so obvious, but a lot of people say what's as good as that is his ability to adjust and learn from at-bats and adapt to situations from pitch to pitch.
And Mike Scioscia told me he's the best he's ever seen at making adjustments, even within an at-bat, how a pitcher's going to work him. He'll try to figure something out the first, second, third pitch into it and try to use that to his advantage.
Ultimately, do you think he is a number 3 hitter, a leadoff hitter? Does he become more of a power guy, a little bit less of a speed guy? He's only 22 years old, but how do you see him developing?
I mean, after his contract's over and he's 28 and he's still very young, that's a great thing about having a guy like this is that, if you want him to lead off, he's going to get on base and steal bases and score runs and still hit home runs. If you want him to hit fourth, he can be a run producer. I think, to me, probably the best place for him to hit would be third, just because he's, the best hitter on the team, and he has been the last 2 years. But you have a guy that's a future Hall of Famer who's off to a great start, so you hit him third and move Trout up to second.
Well, Mike Scioscia says, and correctly so, the issues they've had this year have nothing to do with the offense. They're the highest scoring team in baseball right now, but you wonder when Josh Hamilton comes back, does Hamilton go to fourth? Does Hamilton go in between Trout and Pujols? How do they configure the lineup at that point?
I think to me it would be a situation where, who's pitching. If it's a tough lefty, you might want to put Josh in between Trout and Albert, so he'll get good pitches to hit with someone hitting behind him. And then if it's a tough righty, you hit him fourth behind Trout and Albert.
And the count now full on Trout. And a lot of pitches here early tonight for Tanaka. Up to 43 pitches, still looking for his first out in the third inning. A lot of deep counts in the early going.
And give Trout credit. He's taking a lot of good pitches, but he's also still trying to hit the ball to right field to move Cowgill over to third base with less than 2 outs.
And he strikes him out looking. And Trout must have been guessing something else, maybe thinking splitter down near the bottom of the zone because he couldn't pull the trigger.
There's the first pitch, a fastball. Yeah, that's a pretty good pitch if you want to hit the ball the other way. But now he lays off a couple tough pitches. There's a split he swings at, which is tough. That was a hanger right there. That was the chance. Then he bounces one, and then another splitter that stays in the strike zone. And you know, when you're Mike Trout and you can pick up the ball as quickly as he does out of a pitcher's hand, you read split, and you know he doesn't really throw it for a strike. It's always a swing and miss pitch. But that one stayed in the strike zone, and Trout got fooled by it. I mean, he's reading splitter out of the hand, and that's why he can hit 330 every year. But he's reading splitter out of the hand. You think, okay, this is going to drop out of the zone, and it stayed there.
5th strikeout of the night for Tanaka. Now he'll face Albert Pujols. Pujols struck out his first time up. Just this past week, Albert Pujols becoming the 26th member of the 500 home run club. Hit a couple in a game in Washington. Numbers 499 and 500. He added number 501 here on Friday night. Inside again.
Look at this pitch right here, and Albert giving him a little look. That's nothing more of saying, look, you were great in Japan, but I was the best here, and I'm getting back to that playing form. So, you know, you might want to move that over the plate a little bit.
He throws him a 2-0 slider, and it's a swing and a foul back, 2-1.
Well, that's where Tanaka says, okay, I'm going away, but I'm not going to go away with anything, any hard stuff.
You can see on this cool night, Tanaka rubbing up the baseball, trying to get as good a grip on it as he can every single time. Of course, the Yankees have had some issues in this area with the suspension of Michael Pineda, the pine tar incident earlier this week. And one of the issues on the appeal no swing 3-1 is the baseball that is used in Japan has a bit of a different feel to it. It is tackier, for lack of a better term. It has just a bit of it feels like you can just kind of grip it, catch your fingers on it a little bit easier than you can a Major League Baseball.
Yeah, there has to be some smart person out there that can come up with a substance to rub on baseballs or a substance to make baseballs out of that has a tacky feel to it, so we don't have all these issues.
3-1 to Pujols is low, ball 4, and Tanaka has now walked more batters already here tonight than he had walked in his previous 4 starts combined.
So Joe Girardi on the phone right there. That's interesting.
Looking down to the bullpen, don't see any signs of any activity yet.
Maybe he was calling the replay guy to see if Albert swung on that 2-1 pitch. I don't know. Can you peel that now? I mean,
no.
Okay, good.
I mean, no reason, unless there's something wrong with Tanaka physically, to get anybody up at this point, obviously. First and second, 1 out, and here's Kendrick. Sharply hit to short. To second one. To first, double play, and the inning is over. Bottom of the third in this scoreless game. The shift is on for Kelly Johnson, getting a start at third base for the Yankees tonight. His 7th start of the year at third base. He's also started 11 times at first base. Came to the Yankees as a guy who had played more second and the outfield than anything else. But he figures to be a versatile guy for the Yankees, depending on who's hot, who's injured, where they need him.
Played some first when Teixeira was out. He's been playing third. He can play second.
Swing and a miss, 2-1.
I think watching the shift that they have on Kelly Johnson is a reason why the Yankees went out and got him, because he's pretty much a dead pull hitter. And with the short porch, they thought maybe we can sneak a couple homers.
There's a base hit into left center, and Johnson is aboard.
Sometimes the shift giveth and sometimes it taketh away, but this one, it kind of gave him one to Kelly Johnson. This is a routine grounder to shortstop for a base hit. But, you know, normally 90% of the time he might hook that ball over to the second baseman, but now he just hits a 5-hopper through the infield, and you gotta love that. Hit it off the end of the bat. His fingers are killing him, and he gets a hit.
There's Brian Roberts. In on the grass at third is Stewart. And Roberts takes ball 1. The Yankees, surprisingly, and again the season is young, but they've done a lot better offensively on the road than here at home. And this is a very good hitter's park. They're scoring about a run and a half more per game away from the Bronx so far. And everybody talks about that short porch and right, and how easy it is to reach it. And the numbers bear that out over the first few years of this ballpark.
Well, maybe that's the problem with all the new players that the Yankees brought in, is maybe they're trying to adjust their swing or change their swing to try to hit that short porch. When they go on the road, it's just another normal ballpark. We hit it all over the field. Sometimes it can do that to you, Dan. It gets in your head.
Everybody's saying, you know, a guy like Kelly Johnson, a guy like Brian McCann, their swings are tailored to the short porch and right here.
So is Carlos Beltran as a left-handed hitter. Pull hitter.
He does pretty well everywhere.
He's pretty
good.
Not
bad.
Yeah, he's got a chance to be good when he figures it out.
Just 314 down the line.
Yeah, right. Like Fenway's Green Monsters 310. I'm going to bring my laser next game. Next time we do a game here, and shoot the wall. See how we got, what we got.
Pujols recovers and makes the only play he still has to get Roberts Johnson into second.
Mike Scioscia was raving about the defense of Albert Pujols. Said he looks like he's back to his Gold Glove form as he was when he's a Cardinal. And it's a hard hit ball. But you see how he's set in such perfect position. And even though he tried to play that to the side because he wanted to turn a double play, he still kept the ball in front of him. That's one of those where you catch it, you do the 360 turn, you make a strong throw to Ibar at second base, try to get the double play. But he kept the ball enough in front of him to record the out from Roberts. And that's going to take a hit to get him in.
Let's go down to Buster Olney.
And guys, Mike Scioscia told me yesterday that really the Angels could see that Albert Pujols was back even before they saw him swing a bat in spring training because of the work that he was doing during pitchers' fielding practice. As Scioscia told me, we saw the way he was moving around, how he had his legs underneath him, and we knew that he was going to hit.
And you got to believe, too, that as proud of a man as Albert Pujols is, the fact that a lot of people said, well, his best days are behind him and he'll never be the player that he was. He had to come into this season, you would think, even more determined than normal, maybe even with a bit of a chip on his shoulder this year.
Well, and some of the Angels players I was talking to before the game said that. They said, you know, without question, he came in with a chip on his shoulder because he didn't want to go out that way. He didn't want to go out as a guy limping through the final years of his career and not being able to do the things he does, because he is a proud man and he's not going to be a 250, 15 homer guy. It's just not him.
That pitch sails over the catcher, then pops way up in the air. Hits the screen on the way down, and Johnson will easily take third on the wild pitch.
I'm not sure wild pitch does that one justice. Wow.
And again, maybe just because it's a cool night, we've seen this around baseball with pitchers having trouble sometimes getting a grip on the ball. And really, Iannetta never had a chance on that one.
Iannetta could have called for a sac fly after it hit the backstop.
Infield is in for the Angels. And Ichiro takes one there for a strike, 2-2. Not playing every day, but hitting for average in the early going, off to a .361 start. Johnson average speed at third base. And Ichiro swings right through it to strike out, 2 down. The MLB Fan Cave is back. Some of baseball's biggest stars are scheduled to visit and appear in Fan Cave videos. Check out all the latest cave happenings at MLBFanCave.com. Follow at MLB Fan Cave on Twitter and like the MLB Fan Cave on Facebook. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, celebrating 12 years. Join the millions of subscribers. Watch every out-of-market game live in true HD on over 400 devices. Visit MLB.TV for details. 2 down now with a runner at third and back to the top of the order for Jacoby Ellsbury. Once through the order, Richards, having faced 9 batters, has given up just 1 hit. And as you say, it was really a ground ball. Just found a hole on the left side because of the shift. He hasn't walked anybody, and he has struck out 4. Of his 8 outs, 4 are ground outs, 4 are strikeouts. Nobody has really hit the ball hard off him once through the order.
No, a lot of rollover grounders to second base from the left-handed hitters, and Kelly Johnson has that ball that sneaks through the shift. We knew that he was capable of this, and the Angels think that it's just going to get better and better as his career goes on. I mean, when Mike Scioscia throws out, he has the best stuff in the league. You know, it's.
Fly ball to right field. Cowgill there, and the inning is over as Johnson is stranded at third. No score at the end of 3 with Tanaka heading back to the mound for the Yankees. Baseball, no score between the Angels and Yankees. Masahiro Tanaka, Crucky, by all accounts, throws 7 different pitches, and we can prove it because he gave us his grips yesterday.
Yeah, and there they are: 4-seam, 2-seam, splitter, cutter, slider, changeup, curve, Dan, 7 of them. Now here's the 4-seamer, or what he calls the straight ball, because he's throwing it across seams and goes straight. This is the one that you saw him strike out Albert Pujols with, the one that runs down and in. And there's a splitter that he got Ibar with 4 of them, and that's just nasty when it goes straight down in the strike zone. The cutter, nothing like Mariano Rivera's cutter, but a good cutter nonetheless. And this is a strange grip to me with the slider. Most sliders, when I see pitchers throw it, they have the fingers together on the seams, but he seems to split them. And this is a modified circle change, split changeup that he has, and your traditional curveball across the seam. But here's the splitter right here to Ibar, and this is the one he struck him out with, and it's just about as good and devastating a pitch as you're going to find. I mean, it starts in the zone. He took the 0-2 when Ibar did, and he thought, okay, he can't throw me another one, and he threw 4 in a row and got him to strike out with runners on first and second.
Okay, so you're facing a guy who throws 7 pitches and has very good control, although tonight he's walked 3, which is very unusual for him, only 2 total in his first 4 games. But he does throw fastball, slider, splitter more than the other pitches. There's a ball ripped into right field. That's a base hit. And maybe more for Ibar as it skips by Beltran. And Ibar is in his way to second. And he will stop there. The Angels in business here to begin the 4th.
The last inning, Cowgill started out with a first batter of the inning hitting a double. Now they have another runner on second base with no outs. But this is how you have to hit him, Dan. You have to hit the fastball. You can't wait to hit his secondary pitches. But everyone knows, okay, he has that pitch, but you never want to get in a situation where he can throw that pitch with 2 strikes. And this is just one that I'm sure Beltran, I think he's telling himself he should have gotten to that ball and kept Ibar at first base.
It has scored a double.
Well,
and a runner at second with nobody out. The Angels 0 for 3 with the runners in scoring position tonight. They were 2 for 14 yesterday with runners in scoring position in a 4-3 loss. If you're a hitter facing Tanaka, to get back to the question with all the different pitches, what are you thinking about? What are you looking for when you get into the batter's box?
The only thing I want to know, I know he has a split, and I know throughout my career I couldn't hit one, so I'm never going to look for that pitch because I know I'm not going to hit it anyway. So I'm looking at his fastball on tape. Is it straight? Does it cut? Or does it run in or run away from me? And once I can figure out which is which, does he throw more of the ones that are going to run away? Then I think I have a game plan against him. If he throws 4 splits like he did to Ibar, I'm doing the same thing. I'm punching out.
High end of the strike zone, 0-2. And it may be a cross-up as McCann is heading back out of the mound for a second time. And obviously they can communicate well enough to talk baseball and to make sure that they are straight on the signs. Well, now with 2 strikes, you think about the splitter. And as we saw in the first Ibar at bat, that splitter is at the knees or below. And where you see that red area, that's where he has thrown his splitter with the most frequency so far this season.
And it's a must. If it stays in the strike zone, it becomes a hanger. And it's not going to have that great tilt to it if it's up. And so he has to keep the ball down. And I just think it's fascinating to me how a guy at 25 years old can throw it with that much command.
And he threw it and he got him. Again, it dives straight down and Freeze strikes out.
Well, you mentioned it. We've talked about it the whole game. Once he gets ahead of you, this is put away pitch, and there it is.
Yep.
Beautiful split finger that starts out at the knees. You see Brian McCann with the leg spread so he can go down and block it if it's in the dirt. But again, another splitter down out of the strike zone.
How about this? Interesting about Tanaka. Throws fewer pitches in the strike zone than just about any other qualifying pitcher in baseball, but gets hitters to chase pitches out of the strike zone more than any pitcher in baseball. A lot of that is because of the splitter. And now Ian Stewart is hit by a pitch.
Well, another reason too is you get out of the strike zone is because you can't hit that splitter if it's a good one, so you might chase fastballs out of the strike zone just because you see it. You're looking for a fastball, they throw a fastball, even if it's out of the zone you might chase it because you don't want to get to a situation where he can throw that split finger.
The first batter Tanaka has hit in the major leagues, and clearly struggling with his command more than he did in any of his first 4 starts. 2 walks in his first 4 starts, 3 walks and a hit batter already tonight. First and second, 1 out. And the batter was Chris Iannetta. Up and away, ball 1.
And we saw the other night Jason Worth had a pitch thrown up and in on him, and he ended up getting on first base. He made a hard slide into Ibar this past weekend when the Nationals were playing. This week when they were playing the Washington Nationals. Ian Stewart gets hit. He's halfway to second base with his lead. It's the Sheriff's playing behind him.
Big swing and a miss, 1-1. In the dirt, ball 2. Brian McCann is asking for something out of the Yankee dugout.
He's asking for the trainer to come out, or the translator.
Wow.
This might not be the you know, the universal baseball terms that everyone knows. This could be a little chewing out maybe of McCann, saying this is what I want you to do and do it, or here's what I see you're doing. It's amazing that all the infielders went in, and what are they going to do?
Just want to listen in.
Yeah. I think I would go too. I think it'd be fascinating to hear what they're saying and try to figure it out.
First and second, one out. Tanaka in another jam. Got a big double play ball to get out of a mess in the third, and has done some of his best work so far this young season with runners in scoring position. Opponents are 2 for 24, 16 strikeouts against Tanaka with runners in scoring position. Good pitch there, right at the knees, 2-2.
Joe Girardi told us when he gets in trouble after he gives up a run or two, he really bears down and really stops, you know, the team from scoring any more runs. And this is a situation right here. You know how Garrett Richards is pitching. There's not going to be shouldn't be a lot of runs scored in this game. You got to do everything you can now to keep runs off the board.
A fastball that misses low and a full count.
I say go with the splitter. Why not? Iannetta is going to be aggressive. He thinks he's going to get a fastball 3-2. The runners might even be put in motion. I would be surprised if they aren't in motion right here. Trey, you got to try to force the issue. Open up a hole maybe for Iannetta. If he does throw the splitter low, he's going to hit it on the ground, so you open up a hole.
Ibar at second, Stewart at first, just one out. And another opportunity here for the Angels. Not running. And it's ball 4 to load the bases. The fourth walk given up tonight by Tanaka. Not nearly the command that he has had in his first 4 starts.
No, and you know, give the Angels credit. They're laying off the splitter when he's getting ahead in the count. But his command is not good. His fastball command's not good. You know, and once your fastball command's not good, it's hard to get him to chase the splitter because you're not ahead in the count.
Here's J.B. Shuck. And a bouncer foul, 0-1.
Now, if I'm Shuck, I'm saying to myself, okay, the last time we had runners in scoring position, he threw Ibar 4 splits in a row, and I might, you know, be leery of that pitch because he doesn't throw it for a strike. But you got to be careful with it. And looked like that first pitch was the splitter.
Ibar 90 feet away. And a bouncer foul again. Another splitter, and it's 0-2.
Seems to be the only sign he's going to get with runners in scoring position. Threw 4 in a row to Ibar. And now Shuck's first 2 pitches, he gets 2 splitters. And I say go back to it. You trust your catcher, he's going to block it, and you go back to it.
in the dirt. And Shuck wouldn't bite. Good block there by McCann.
Eerily similar to the Ibar at bat. 2 splitters that he swung through, and then a bounced splitter that he trusts his catcher. How does he come back with another?
And he throws so many pitches in the dirt. They throw the ball out of play so much. He's constantly getting a new baseball, constantly trying to rub it up and get a good feel for it on a cool night down into the 40s here in New York. You know, there's been some discussion, not to get too far off track here, but with the Pineda situation, pine tar, cold night, grip on the baseball, where some people feel, you know what, if the game, and Joe Girardi said this before the game, if it's below a certain temperature, there should be a substance agreed upon that's legal in all of Major League Baseball. Whatever it is, it's behind the mound on the grass. The pitcher can go to it, and everybody knows what's going on.
It's a chilly night tonight. How many times you seen Tanaka or Garrett Richards go after the rosin bag? Rosin bags, if your hand's sweat, dries up your hand, gets you better grip on the ball. They should have something for the pitchers out there. I agree.
Got to pitch up, but it's popped up back of the plate and back into the seats. That's what Joe Girardi said. If it's too hot and you're sweaty, you've got a rosin bag. Why don't they have something if it's too cold?
I agree with him, and that way you can regulate it because they're not using it in their own dugout, or they're going to use it. Let's not be naive and think that, oh wow, Pineda's the only guy that's ever done this. A lot of them do it. I'd say the majority of pitchers do it on cold days, and they should do it. But I agree, you can regulate it back, you know, if it's on the field of play where an umpire can stand there and watch you. But he did have a glob on his neck.
Yes, he did.
Holy moly.
And it cost him 10 games. 1-2 again. Softly hit. There's one, and that's all they're going to get. The fielder's choice by Shuck will bring in Ibar with the first run of the night.
Good at bat by J.B. Shuck. All he wanted to do was put it in play, and he just so happened to hit. And you'll do this with the split finger. You'll hit bouncers, high bouncers, and with his speed, there's no way they were going to turn that double play. Now the Angels are on the board.
First and third, 2 down, 1-0 here in the top of the 4th, and back to the top of the order for Colin Cowgill. Cowgill a strikeout and a double. Upstairs, ball 1.
69 pitches already for Tanaka in 3 2/3 innings. And Cowgill, the first pitch, his last at bat, he hit the double down the left field line on a first pitch fastball, and you saw Tanaka right there throw him an off speed pitch and just left it up.
He's been his own worst enemy at times tonight with 4 walks and a hit batter. If his command is better, he might not be in this situation at all. Now Brian McCann is going to relay to the infielders what they're going to do if Shuck makes a break for second.
Yeah, how many times you see a guy pitch 3 2/3 innings, he's walked 4, and he's only given up 1 run. You know, the stuff is there when he had to have it. You know, he got a ball that wasn't hit as good.
Fouled back, 1-2. And Cowgill upset with himself. Looks like he felt he really had a pitch to hit right there.
Well, he got the fastball, and that's the one, because now you know that any one of 7 pitches can be coming this next one. And that's the frustrating thing as a hitter, when you miss the pitch you think you should have gotten. And you know, the general rule is they'll give you 1 pitch to hit per at bat. Although he didn't give Ibar that pitch when he struck him out with first and second. That's the one you miss, and now it's like, okay, now it's battle. We got to battle. Try to put it in play and hopefully find a hole.
Got him. Went to the splitter for strikeout number 7. Well, the Angels do scratch across a run and lead 1-0 going to the bottom of the 4th. Bell is brought to you by One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of MLB, specially formulated for men. And the 2014 Mazda 3 with seamless connectivity. Back in the Bronx, a 1-0 lead for the Angels over the Yankees. Time now to get some FaceTime, brought to you by Edward Jones, Buster Olney, with Angel pitching coach Mike Butcher.
Mike, so far Garrett Richards, 3 scoreless innings. Why has he climbed up to the next level this season?
I think just really over the last couple of years it's been more of a maturity more than anything else. Understanding his delivery, number one, understanding his stuff, number two. Just going out there and really just trusting it.
You're a pitching guy. What are your first impressions of Masahiro Tanaka?
He's got, good command. I think his command's a little off tonight. I think he had 2 walks coming into the season, but I think he has 4 tonight. But good split. Seems like that's his go-to pitch when he gets into trouble. Nice little cutter, slider. Pretty good command of the fastball. It looks like he's under control out there.
Mike, thanks.
Thank you.
Derek Jeter leads off the inning for the Yankees against Richards. And the first pitch fastball is sent foul off to the right second deck. And it's 0-1 on Jeter, who struck out on a nasty 2-seam fastball back in the first inning. Excuse me, 1-1. 1-1 on Jeter on a nasty 2-seam fastball from Richards back in the first.
Jeter for mayor. Is he a New York resident or a Florida resident?
He could be mayor wherever he wanted.
He
could be mayor here if he wanted to. Check swing foul off, and it's 1-2. .337 hits in his career. Takes it low. Curveball stays high, and it's 3-2.
Wow. They'll call him out on strikes in New York.
Well, always a guy who hits the ball the other way about as often as any hitter in baseball. But with Richards throwing as hard as he is, Jeter's not able to keep it fair. He keeps fouling balls off to the right side.
Yeah, he might want to start a little sooner.
Weekly hit back towards the mound, and an easy play for Richards. Been a good night so far, Crucky, for Garrett Richards.
Well, it sure is, and you see the movement on that pitch. 97 to Jeter, strike him out. Then Soriano gets 96 cutter. Teixeira 95 two-seamer, and then Ichiro 97 two-seamer. And this is the thing. Look where he's missing. Or look where these pitches are. Iannetta puts the glove down. He's either hitting the glove or he's missing out of the strike zone or down in the strike zone to keep these guys swinging over top of it. And that's 97 with movement, Dan. Think about that for a second. Jump on in there and grab a hold of that one.
No thanks.
No, I'm no kidding.
The only hit came off the bat of Kelly Johnson, and as you said, it was really a routine ground ball to where the shortstop normally is, but because they had the shift on, there was room on the left side, and Johnson got a base hit out of it.
He beat the shift. And they really haven't hit a ball hard.
No.
I mean, I thought when the ball left Ellsbury's bat last inning, I thought, Yankee Stadium, short right field, he must have hit off the end of the bat because it was a routine fly ball.
And a 3-0 count now on a Beltran. Richards has not walked anybody.
Turn him loose. You've seen the swings in the first 3 innings of this game off of him. This might be the only good pitch you get.
Didn't get a chance to swing. It's ball 4.
Wow. Heavy movement.
Just the second base runner of the night for the Yankees.
See how much that thing cut?
And now the Angels shift again, but they're doing it differently than they did the last time. Last time they had Ibar on the left side. This time it's Stewart rather, the third baseman who stays on the left side. Ibar has gone over to the right side of second base. And you'll see more and more teams not only shifting but having different kinds of shifts depending on the situation, how many outs there are, if you have a chance to turn a double play, that sort of thing. And now a visit. A busy inning for Mike Butcher. In a build-up to the World Cup in Brazil, ESPN features stories and people who changed the international soccer landscape. On Tuesday, the myth of Garrincha looks back at the life of Mane Garrincha, who alongside Pele helped Brazil capture 2 World Cups. And then Ceasefire Massacre examines the juxtaposition of the jubilation felt when Ireland led Italy at halftime of the 1994 game against the horrible massacre inside a small pub in Northern Ireland. 30 for 30 Tuesday at 7 on ESPN. And a strike to McCann, 1-1. Fouled off, 1-2.
I think the interesting thing about shifts are, even with 2 strikes now on McCann, 1 and 2, they're not changing the way they're shifting. And you know, I think that's a sign of how baseball is played now, where 2 strikes, guys aren't giving themselves up and just trying to put it in play anymore. 2 strikes, are still trying to swing their normal swing, trying to hit home runs. McCann has the ability to hit the ball the other way. But not with that swing.
No, didn't get any piece of that from Richards, and that's strikeout number 5 for the big right-hander.
That's the curveball right there at McCann, and you can see the great location, and you know, one visit from the pitching coach and the catcher, and all of a sudden his mechanics got back on track and the pitches became nasty like they have been the prior innings.
So 2 down, and the batter is Alfonso Soriano, the DH tonight, struck out in his first at bat.
See, that's the thing that he will learn over time, is not to throw your 2-strike curveball the first pitch of the at bat. That was a 2-strike curveball that he bounced. If he had 2 strikes, Soriano might have been tempted to swing at that, but with no strikes on you, that's the pitch you just, Curt Schilling calls it the non-competitive pitch.
Soriano still a dangerous batter, 4 home runs this season. Big swing there, but a 94-mile-an-hour cutter, but it's 1-1.
I love that 94-mile-an-hour cutter, 97 cutter, 96 two-seamer.
Yeah. So he can throw it 96 or 97, and it could go straight, could go to the left, or it could go to the right. Hang with him.
It's great to be sitting here.
Broken bat roller to short, and the inning is over. No runs, no hits, a walk, and a man left at the end of 4. The Angels won, and the Yankees nothing here in the Bronx. Presented by Taco Bell. We go to the 5th inning here in the Bronx. The Angels leading the Yankees 1-0. And time now to get some FaceTime brought to you by Edward Jones. Between innings, we visited with Yankee manager Joe Girardi. Well, Joe, just 2 walks for Tanaka in his first 4 starts, 4 walks and a hit batter tonight. What do you see as the issue there?
Well, he's just off a little bit. He's not off a lot. He's just off a little bit, and they put some long at bats on him. And, it's not going to be perfect all the time. We know that.
Well, Joe, your offense so far hasn't gotten anything going on Garrett Richards. He's pretty tough, isn't he?
Well, I mean, it looks like his fastball has a ton of movement, and it's not really consistent movement. Sometimes it's cutting, sometimes it's sinking, and it's diving out of the strike zone, and we're having a hard time right now.
Joe, thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Mike Trout leads off the 5th for the Angels. That's the 73rd pitch of the night already thrown by Masahiro Tanaka as we open up the 5th. Season high for Tanaka's 107. Trout tonight has singled and struck out. Tanaka does have 7 strikeouts through 4. Just inside at the knees, a ball and a strike. Albert Pujols on deck.
Where you wonder here if Trout, he struck out the last at bat on a pitch in looking, and you wonder if now he'll might look in there and see if he can get a hold of one.
Swings through it, looked like a slider there, and it's 2-2, and smiling at himself like, man, that's the best pitch I'm going to see all night.
Yeah, I mean, that's, they say if you hit a ball hard 3 out of 10 times, you're doing great. This is one that should get hit hard 7 out of 10 times because that's a hanger, and Mike Trout knows he's not going to get that one again.
A fastball, and at 93, he's late on it, sends it foul off to the right.
Again, it's the 1 pitch per at bat that they say you're going to get the hit, and he missed it. And now it's battle time, and see what he can do.
Another fastball fouled back.
I just think that's amazing for a kid this young who, those are 2 pretty good pitchers' pitches, and he spoils them by fouling them off.
Well, as you said at our meeting this morning, when you were 22, you were an A-ball. This guy's has been the runner-up for MVP twice. Might be the best player in baseball.
He is the best overall player in baseball, without question.
Family looking on.
I mean, he grew up a Philly fan. How could he be bad? I mean, come on.
And from about 75 miles away from here, closer to Philly than to New York. 8th pitch of the at-bat upcoming to Mike Trout.
But he grew up a Jeter fan.
Right.
So he made wise choices in both areas.
But he can't lay off the splitter. Strikeout number 8. The amazing thing about, and he's thrown a lot of splitters tonight, he's only hung 1 of them. Every other one has been like this, where it starts out at the knees and it winds up in the dirt.
Yeah, he's only thrown 1 that's actually in the strike zone, and that again, that's your 2 strikes. He has enough fastball to get by you because he fouled 1 off to the right side here, and then you have to start a little earlier, and then he throws that one, and you're done.
And he starts Pujols with a curveball at 72 miles an hour for strike 1. Pujols has struck out and walked. Fastball down and in, a swing and a miss, 0-2. He's really starting to mix well now and locate better.
Well, he's going to mix a splitter in right here. Seems to be the go-to pitch with 2 strikes. I don't think he'd fool with anything else.
Fastball. 2 down.
Well, this is what you get when you're one of the greatest players that ever play the game. A first pitch breaking ball, strike one, and that two-seamer that he runs down and in. And he tried to get that one inside. He struck him out his first at bat on that same pitch. He doubled up on the two-seamer down and in on Pujols. He tried to get it there, but he's kept that ball up and away. But again, with the threat of the splitter, you're protecting your swing. You're not trying to do anything. You're not trying to do damage with it. You're just trying to put it in play. And the fastball got by him a little bit, and he rolled one over to actually the second baseman playing shortstop.
Ryan Roberts on the other side of the bag. Here's Howie Kendrick. Kendrick tonight has walked and grounded into a double play that ended a threat in the third inning. Just inside. The Angels head home after this game tonight. Got a 9-game homestand coming up with the Indians, the Rangers, and then the Yankees. The Yankees will stay home, and Robinson Cano's coming to the Bronx. Seattle is coming here for a series beginning Tuesday. Curveball on 2-0 for a strike.
Well, and that's the thing I was going to say about Tanaka. Even though 2-0, there's no guarantee you're going to get anything good to hit. That's a 2-0 slow breaking ball.
And another one hit a long way to left field. Ichiro can't make the catch. Kendrick is on his way into third base, and in there as the throw gets away, but is backed up by Tanaka. Ichiro got spun around and couldn't make the catch as he tumbled backwards into the fence.
I mean, it looks like right here he had it. I thought if this doesn't go out, Ichiro's got this made, but he just kind of short-armed it. I don't know if he thought the wall was closer to him and he thought he was going to hit the wall with his back, but you can see right there he's barely one step on the warning track. Usually you have 3 steps before you're going to hit the wall, and he had that one step, and I guess he thought he was closer to the wall than what he was. He thought the wall would brace him on his jump, and the ball wasn't there, and the ball goes over his head.
Scored a triple. 2 down. Here's Ibar. How about that? At least showing bunt, either threatening to bunt for a base hit, or at least.
Yeah, and Ibar's sitting there thinking, oh, no, why do I fake a bunt? He throws me a fastball right down the middle. Now watch me try to hit this other stuff.
Ibar struck out in the first, doubled in the fourth, doubled and scored the only run of the game. 0-2.
What happens when you fake a bunt to try to get the infielders to move in? Strike one, and then the stuff comes. I think he can go any way he wants here. He can elevate a fastball, try to get him to swing through it, and then come back with a split if he doesn't swing at the fastball, or just go right back to the split and try to end it now.
And he does, and he did. Strikeout number 9 as he does end the threat after the triple by Kendrick. Back to the Bronx, bottom of the 5th inning. Angels 1 and the Yankees nothing with John Crockett and Buster Olney. I'm Dan Schulman. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell. Mark Teixeira leads it off for the Yankees. He struck out in his only at bat. One of 5 strikeouts through 4 innings for Garrett Richards. Shift is on for the Angels as the pitch misses outside, ball 2. So now with nobody on base, the way they shift is they keep Ibar on the left side and Richards goes over to the right side. It's the opposite when there's a runner at first. So you could speculate, Crucky, if there's a potential double play, they don't want Richards or not Richards, Stewart, a big third baseman, with his back to the play heading to second trying to turn a double play. They want Ibar making that more difficult.
And you also don't want, if a ball's hit into shallow right field, a ground ball into shallow right field, and Kendrick gets it, you don't want the guy on first to be able to beat Stewart to the base, and you have a better chance with Ibar outrunning him to the base, to third base, that is.
There's Kendrick out in the outfield. Stewart is playing kind of where a second baseman would normally play, and Ibar, the shortstop, is still on the left side of the bag. Amazingly, Garrett Richards has thrown 10 straight first pitch balls. He's fallen behind 10 consecutive hitters, but it hasn't really cost him. Hasn't cost him at all. Well,
that's because he has great stuff, and he can get behind the hitter and still come back with his fastball. You hear Joe Girardi, one cuts, one sinks, one sails, one runs. It's such difficult to try to get something off the barrel on him because it moved with so much movement.
Low ball 4. Second walk given up tonight by Richards. Now Kelly Johnson, who has the only hit tonight for the Yankees on basically a ground ball to the left side that got through a vacated area because of the shift, and it's the same, basically the same alignment here. Much more efficient with his pitches than Tanaka has been tonight. Although the strike to ball ratio is not great, it's not where he'd want it. It's decent, but it's not where he'd want it. Check swing, ball 2.
He's going to have games where he has the strike to ball ratio is going to be very close because of the movement that he has on his pitch. I still marvel at 97 with great movement. It just seems like it's impossible to have a ball travel that fast and that short a distance and still move that much.
Does he remind you of anybody?
Jared Weaver tried to tell me he reminds me of a young A.J. Burnett when A.J. first came up with the Marlins, was throwing 95, 96, 97 with movement and the hard breaking ball. He throws across his body kind of like A.J. does. So, Jared Weaver no better than I.
Fouled back 2-2.
He threw a no-hitter against the Padres and walked how many? 8,
Burnett? 7,
8,
I think.
something like that. Yeah.
Well,
hey, no-hitter's no-hitter.
He's a stuff guy, just like Garrett Richards is.
Yeah. I mean, if you're, the Angels, you just say throw it down the middle and let your movement take it to wherever it wants to go.
Breaking ball fouled off. With both of these pitchers, although they're very different, it's got to be so hard to sit on one pitch because the ball comes in so hard from Richards and he moves it different ways. And of course, with Tanaka, you've got such an array of pitches. It just doesn't look like a hitter could ever get comfortable there up there.
Yeah, it's not a comfortable bat against any one of them because you don't know when a strike is coming.
Swing and a miss. Johnson strikes out. Make Sunday extra special by going out to the ballpark. Go to MLB.com/Sunday to find special ticket offers. Follow every Major League Baseball game with MLB.com at bat for your iPhone, iPad, Android, BlackBerry 10, or Windows Phone 8. Get scores, stats, highlights, live audio, and more. Text at bat to 31826 or visit MLB.com for details. Bottom 5, 1 on, 1 out. Brian Roberts, the batter. Roberts a late at, as we mentioned off the top of the show. Leon Harvis, Solarte, who has a sore shoulder, and Ichiro, who's on deck, is playing because Brett Gardner was hit on the foot yesterday, and he's got a sore foot. Could be available in some capacity, but did not start the game. And Ichiro crashing into the fence hard as he misplayed a ball out in left field. Last inning was scored as a triple, but he's still in there.
And if you're the Yankees, there's no panic. It's 1-0, but you understand the difficulties the Angels bullpen has had in closing out games. You tell Tanaka, keep this thing close and get in their bullpen. We got us a chance.
Well, he has not lost a bit of velocity over the course of the night, only here in the 5th inning, but still a consistent 96 with the fastball.
And the movement's still there, and that's 97's great. I mean, it's unbelievable, but 97 with movement. You talk to guys, I'd rather throw 92 with movement than 96 straight. Well, he's got both.
That's a base hit the other way. Down into the corner. Teixeira on his way to third is going to be held there on a double by Roberts.
A pitch right there. That's a two-seamer that's running away from Brian Roberts, and just a beautiful piece of hit. And he let strike one go. A fastball was pretty much down the middle. Didn't think he would get another one out over the plate, but yes, he does. And if that's a cutter, it might be a double play ball. But Brian Roberts picked the right one. The Yankees are in business.
So second and third, 1 out, down to 1-0 in the bottom of the 5th for Ichiro, who struck out his first time up. Ground ball to short. This will get a run home to tie the game. It's the first RBI of the season for Ichiro.
And this is all you want. Infield's back. If you make contact, unless it's to the corners or the pitcher, you're going to get this run in. And if there was no one on second base, you might have seen the Angels maybe bring the infield in and take a chance on keeping it a 1-0 game. But they have to play back with the runner on second and third. You don't want an easy ball to go through the infield and score 2 runs. And I think, to me, this is interesting. Pitching to Jacoby Ellsbury. With as good as he's been so far this year, with Derek Jeter up next to, he hasn't had really good swings against Garrett Richards in this game. And Ellsbury just missed one to right field his last at bat.
Curveball, and maybe the best one he's thrown tonight for a called strike. Ellsbury with a ground out and a fly out.
Well, and that's when it tells you as a hitter, okay, that they might not be. They might not want to give me anything to hit right here. Now you have to be very smart as a hitter not to chase pitches out of the zone.
Roberts with good speed out at second. Look back by Richards. Now he'll step off and look the runner back.
I love it. Inside move, and everyone yells balk, and it's been a legal move for 9 million years.
And they don't mind it when the home pitcher does it.
No, good move. Good move.
Good strategy.
Yeah, he's thinking out there. He's keeping him close.
And the count now 0-2 on Jacoby Ellsbury. Waiting on deck, hoping for a chance this inning, Derek Jeter. He's got that little 87 slider he can mix in between the 78 curveball and the 96 fastball.
Yeah, I tell you what, that's a really good take by Jacoby Ellsbury, because you have to respect the 97 movement away and the 95 that's been cutting in on left-handed hitters. And to be able to take that pitch with 2 strikes when you know you have to be a little more aggressive and expand your zone. Maybe that's why he's got paid what he got paid, and he's hitting over 300.
1 ball, 2 strikes on Ellsbury. A tie game here in the bottom of the 5th. And the curveball just misses. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
I think this pitch is going to tell you something. If they want to actually be aggressive with Jacoby Ellsbury and try to get out, let Jeter lead off the 2nd inning, or if they're still going to try to be careful with him, because he's thrown him 3 breaking balls in this at bat already. If he throws that slider down and in and gets it up just a little bit, Ellsbury might be too tempted not to swing at it.
Ground ball to second. And the inning is over. The Yankees, though, do get a run to tie it at 1 at the end of 5 when we come back to see Barry Larkin's Web Gems from a busy Sunday around baseball. Field next week for the Cardinals and Cubs. 1 week from tonight here on Sunday Night Baseball. Top 6 tie game. First pitch swinging. David Freese, fly ball deep right center. It is gone. And just like that, the Angels have the lead back on the second home run of the season for David Freese.
Freese didn't wait around right there, Dan, and that's the approach you have to have off a guy like Tanaka. Get him early before he can get you. It's a fastball up in the zone, and when we talked to Mike Scioscia before the game, he mentioned the unbelievable power that David Freese has the other way in his last 15 or so at bats. They see that approach again, where he's trying to hit the ball to right center field, from center field over to right field, and trying to stay in, inside the baseball instead of coming, pulling off of it, and that's a perfect example.
The Angels lead the major leagues in home runs. They've hit 37 home runs already. This is their 24th game, scoring almost half of their runs on homers. And they've got Albert Pujols, who is among major league leaders. He's got 9. Trout has 6, and after that, just everybody's got a couple. Everybody's contributing. Here's Stewart. He's got a couple. Shift on again. Jeter on the left side.
The first couple pitches of this at bat, Derek was playing like a third baseman playing in for a bunt. Some wondered if he'd have to move to third base someday. Apparently, for this at bat, he was.
Got him. Strikeout number 10 for Masahiro Tanaka. Let's take a look around the majors. Some of the big stories. A lot of stuff going on around baseball recently, including Adam Wainwright now 25 consecutive scoreless innings. St. Louis beats Pittsburgh 7-0 today. Wainwright with 8 innings today. How about the Atlanta pitching? Their team ERA is 2.14. They beat the Reds 1-0 in 10 innings today. Bryce Harper is on the DL with a thumb injury, and Jose Abreu of the Chicago White Sox homered and drove in 4. 10 homers and 31 RBIs. That is a new major league record for the most RBIs by a rookie before the end of April, breaking a record that had been held by Albert Pujols. The batter is Chris Iannetta. And he lifts a fly ball to shallow right center field. And that is out number 2. We've got some activity now in the Yankee bullpen with the right-hander Adam Warren up. What Atlanta's done with all the injuries they had in their rotation is absolutely amazing.
Aaron Harang comes in, is pitching fantastic. Irvin Santana's been great. It's not easy when you lose Medlin and Beachy before the season even starts, and then all of a sudden you replace them with guys who are, I think Irvin Santana has better stuff than Beachy or Medlin, and of course they had to pay some money to get Irvin Santana, but Aaron Harang, where did he come from? Where was he? How did we know this was going to happen? And you never know. That this could be the second half of the season, because he's an older, getting older. It could be second half he's getting figured out, but there's no signs to say that's going to happen.
Other stories today: the Mets beat Miami 4-0. Dylan G with 8 very strong innings.
Johnny Cueto pitched a great game also against the Braves in that 1-0 game.
There were a lot of good pitching performances today. Cueto went 8 innings, 3 hits, 11 strikeouts. His ERA is 1.15. Freddie Freeman's RBI single in the 10th, the only run in that game. Colorado won again, took a series from the Dodgers, beat them 6-1. There's a fair ball down to Teixeira to end the inning. But a run on the board this inning for David Freese and the Angels. A long home run to right center. And the Angels have the lead back as we go to the bottom of the 6th. Bottom 6 of the Bronx. Angels 2, Yankees 1. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Buster Olney, Derek Jeter, Carlos Beltran, Brian McCann against Garrett Richards. 5 innings, 1 run, 2 hits, 6 strikeouts.
I think they like him. I don't think Derek was a big fan of that pitch, and not because he thought it was intentional in any way. I mean, when you're 29, those are scary. When you're 39, they're.
On comes Trout for out number 1.
Normally when you're heading to count 1-0, you want to try to, if you're looking fastball and how hard he throws, you're trying to get something you can try to pull. But this is classic Derek Jeter. The inside out swing, the right elbow tucked into the ribs, the handle of the bat in front of the baseball, or in front of the baseball. I'm sorry, in the barrel behind. And that's why he's gotten 3,000 hits, and a lot of them to right field and right center.
0 for 3 tonight. Here's Beltran, a ground out and a walk. Hot shot, staggers Pujols, knocks him down, but he makes the play, and then Richards drops the ball. And an error charged on Richards.
And you love this. They're going out to talk to him just to let him know, hey, keep your emotions intact. Yes, you should have caught that ball, but you got to keep it intact. Albert makes a great play right there, and it was a perfect feed. It's right on the base, right where you want it. Garrett Richards probably does look down at the base. You see him right there. He looks down at the base, and it happens every time. You're concentrating on catching the ball, but you're more concerned with, am I going to touch the base? And consequently, the glove closes too soon. It hits off of it. But I love this move by Butcher going out to talk to him, and the infielders coming in. Just calm down, control yourself, make good pitches. We got a guy who can hit into double plays. So make some good pitches, see if we can get roll over double play right here and get out of this.
So runner at first, 1 out, and Brian McCann is the batter. Shift on again, 3 on the right side. Stewart over on the left side. Ibar comes around to the right side. Kendrick not too far out at all in case they have a chance here to turn a double play. Well, we talk about this a lot, but this situation, you're down 1, you got a man on, 6th inning. Would you ever say to McCann, just push one up the third baseline?
Yeah, but the thing is, if your mindset is that and he throws one middle in, and that's a ball you can hit into the short porch in right field to give your team a lead. That's always a thing that a power guy thinks about. I don't want to give myself up, because what if I do get that one pitch I can hit out? Now at 2 strikes, all bets are off, and you try to just put it in play to that side, and either way you're staying out of a double play.
2 balls and a strike now on the Yankee catcher. Now, one of the many things that Garrett Richards has done this year is keep the ball in the ballpark. Has not allowed a home run yet this season.
Too much movement.
3-1. And he came into the game tonight having given up only 13 hits in 25 innings, and he hasn't hurt himself in that department at all here tonight. Just 2 hits in 5 1/3 tonight.
I'm going to try to throw that 2-seamer away, and hopefully McCann rolls over trying to go deep on his 3-1 pitch.
Skies it to left field. Shuck makes the catch for the 2nd out. Now Soriano. Oh for 2. He did throw him the two-seamer, and he got the ball up a little
he
bit.
elevated it.
Yep.
And that's the one there that McCann could have got on top of and hit something hard into the right field.
Slider misses upstairs, ball one. Look at the American League West and the Angels. If they can have a good year, remember they've missed the playoffs 4 years in a row. For all the success they had for so many years, for all the money they've spent recently, they've missed the playoffs the last 4 years. Oakland is the two-time defending American League West division champs, and they're off to a good start again this year, although they did lose today to Houston 5-1. And Texas, with all their injuries, they're off to a good start as well. And they got Matt Harrison back today, although they lost 6-5 to Seattle. Matt Harrison returned for the Rangers today. Oakland right now 15-10, same as Texas. The Angels are 11-12, 3 games back.
And there's not one team right now you can look at in either league and say, okay, they're the best team we've seen. You know, the Braves pitching's great, but their offense is inconsistent. The Nationals, sometimes you just don't know what's happening with them.
Cardinals scored a lot of runs today, but they haven't been hitting the ball like we'd expect.
Not the power numbers that we're used to them having. And you know, I thought Detroit coming in was on paper the best team since they got Joe Nathan. They finally have that dependable closer and that great starting staff, and they're good, but they're not blowing people away like I thought they would.
Best record in baseball belongs to the Milwaukee Brewers, although they lost today. They were beaten 4-0 by the Cubs, but Milwaukee is 18-7 on the season. Outstanding pitching for the Brewers.
Yeah, quietly. You know, they talked about trading Giovanni Gallardo. They kept him. You know, Matt Garza comes aboard. Kyle Loesch, who missed spring training and signed late or early into the season. You know, he's back to normal. I mean, they have 3 quality starters.
A couple of injuries, though, both happened yesterday. The freak injury where Ryan Braun hit Gene Segura with his bat as Segura was coming up the dugout steps, and then Braun strained a muscle in his rib cage, and he's out for a few days as well. So 2 of their most important players both getting injured yesterday. Neither one played today. 2-2. And Soriano chases, and the tag applied to end the inning. 6 in the books. Angels 2, Yankees 1. Top of the order coming up when we come back. The 26th member of the 500 home run club. He's got 501 right now. Pujols is due up third this inning at 499 and 500 in the same game earlier this week against the Nationals. And at 34 years of age, figures to have a few more coming.
Yeah, he'll hit a few more. And I heard a story that his family was not going to join him until this series with the Yankees this weekend, and he called him and said, "You better get to Washington because I'm feeling really good, and it's going to happen here." That's the great ones can do that.
Colin Cowgill leads off the 7th for the Angels, with Masahiro Tanaka over 100 pitches. The most pitches that he has thrown in a game in the big leagues is 107. Did that against the Cubs on April the 16th. Went 8 innings, though, in that game to get to 107. He's gone at least 7 innings in all 4 of his previous major league starts.
And this is only the second time in his career he's ever pitched on regular rest, 4 days rest, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And his command's not as good.
Yep.
I don't think it's a concern to the New York Yankees, but it might be something they want to look at.
You mean give him an extra day when they can?
Yes.
More like a Japanese schedule where he'll pitch probably once a week as opposed to once every 5 days normally here.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just speculation, but there has to be a reason why. And again, everyone has games, no matter how good your control is, where your command's not great. And we're complaining of, not complaining, but we're talking about a guy who's only given up 2 runs.
And has struck out 10.
Yeah, but only in 6 innings. So. Is that good? But when you set the bar as high as he has, we're going 24-0 with a minuscule ERA in Japan. You think that how does anyone ever score off of him?
And the problem for him, although they've hit a couple of balls hard, including the home run by Freese, obviously, the biggest problem he's had really has been a lack of command. A lot of 3-ball counts, 4 walks. They all came in the first 4 innings. He hit a batter as well, which is not what we had seen out of Tanaka in his first 4 starts.
Yeah, and that's why you start wondering. You wonder if it's the only 4 days rest instead of the 5 or 6 days rest that he's used to having over in Japan. A lot of things can go into that. I personally don't. I think he's going to be fine on 5 days of normal rest. But
still nasty stuff. That's strikeout number 11. So he has 46 strikeouts in his first 5 major league starts.
That'll work.
But that's going to be all. He will not get to face Trout and Pujols again. Adam Warren is going to come into the game for the Yankees, and although Tanaka leaves trailing, he leaves to a big ovation here in the Bronx. Back in a moment, top 7 of the Angels up 2-1. Chevrolet. Celebrate the new season with Chevrolet. Share your excitement using hashtag the new. And Bayer Back and Body, the official pain reliever of MLB. Here comes Mike Trout with the Angels leading the Yankees 2-1 in the top of the 7th. Let's take a look now at Dumore, brought to you by Safeco. And with the 11 strikeouts tonight, Tanaka now with 46 through his first 5 career games. The only pitchers ever with more, Herb Score and Steven Strasburg. And Kerry Wood there with 45 had, 20 in one game? That was his 5th major league start, I think, when he had the 20.
I think so, yeah. But that's kind of tough to match.
Warren to face Trout. And there's a liner ripped into right center field. Cut off by Ellsbury. And he will do a nice job to hold Trout to a long single.
I'm sure. Well, with Albert Pujols' leg getting repaired in the offseason, we talked about his balance is so much better and his base is so much better. And yeah, he reminds you of a guy who's hit a few home runs himself. Look at the front leg hitting off a front stiff leg, but look at the back foot coming off the ground. That's accelerated power through the swing. And look at Albert Pujols hitting off the stiff front side, the back foot, the right foot off the ground, driving that force through his lower body to generate so much power with their legs and hips. And you wonder why both of them are prodigious home run hitters, and that's a pretty good reason why. Great balance and great shifting of the weight through the swing to get that back foot off the ground.
Chases a slider down and away. Pujols is at the point now where it feels like every month or so he might pass a really impressive hitter on the all-time home run list. He's close to Eddie Murray, then Gary Sheffield, then Mel Ott, Ernie Banks, Eddie Matthews. They're all within reach in the next couple of months. And what's just as impressive about Pujols is the average he's hit for and the relatively small number of strikeouts that he has, considering what a power hitter he is.
Yeah, he's a great contact hitter with power. But that's what makes him so difficult. And I said it before, he will take a pitch if he has to and hit the ball the other way just to get on base.
Took a fastball and it's 0-2.
And this could be the situation, 0-2. Like you said, he doesn't want to strike out. He'll give in a little bit with less power, just to try to put the ball in play. And this could be one of those where he never struck out more than 93 times in a season. That's pretty good for a guy that hits 30-40 every year.
And this year he's got 9 homers, 9 strikeouts. Time was called. Angels 2, Yankees 1, top 7. Tanaka out of the game. Adam Warren gives up the base hit to Trout, now facing Pujols. Lays off the slider.
And again, this is where you have to be careful, because if Warren keeps throwing that slider away, Albert will hit that ball to the vacated right side of the infield. Look, that ain't no one over there. Teixeira's going to have to bounce off the base 50 feet to get a grounder to second base.
Adam Warren on in relief. The Yankees have had to use 18 different pitchers already this year due to some injuries. The Pineda suspension. They've had Nuno move into the rotation. Now Phelps is going to get a start for them. Warren, kind of a middle innings guy out of the bullpen right now for the Yankees. 2-2 the count on Pujols.
I think it's go time for Mike Trout. I think he's going. I think the 2-2 count, he's sure they're going to throw a slider or something to Albert here, something off speed. They just threw the fastball in. That's usually a telltale sign that either they're going to double up in, or which is going to make a tough throw for McCann, trying to catch the ball on his glove side and transfer to get a quick guy like Trout, or he's going to throw a breaking ball down and away.
As Mike Scioscia was saying before the game, yeah, Trout hasn't run as often so far this year, but he said a lot of times there's been a man on in front of him. But when they need a key steal, he will still be aggressive, and the Angels are encouraging him to still be aggressive. Is this one of those moments? Not going, and a swing and a ground ball. 1-2. Inning over. 7th inning stretch in the Bronx, and it remains the Angels 2 and the Yankees 1. David Freese, fly ball, deep right center. It is gone.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Two-seam or four-seam.
And Pujols strikes out. And he strikes him out looking. And you can see he's got the stuff. 97 down and in. David Freese, fly ball, deep right center. It is gone.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball.
And welcome back to Yankee Stadium. We go to the bottom of the 7th, a 2-1 lead for the Angels. Masahiro Tanaka struggled with his command, but did strike out 11. But the only decision he could pick up tonight is a loss thanks to the home run from David Freese. Garrett Richards has been outstanding. And he is back out there for the 7th inning. Faced Teixeira, Johnson, and Roberts. 6, 7, 8 in the Angel lineup. You mentioned it last inning. Where the Angels have struggled the most so far this year has been the bullpen. They've blown leads. They've lost some one-run games. They've made a change in the 9th inning already. They've had some early heartbreak this season, losing these kinds of games where they've carried a lead into the late innings.
Yeah, and that's why you think that you would have hoped that your offense, and that's why I thought Trout might run. You know, to try to get another run on the board to give the bullpen at least another insurance run. But again, it's tough to run with Albert up because do you pitch around him? I mean, swinging the bat great, and that's the last thing you want to do is take the bat out of his hand. But that's where you have to trust Kendrick and Ibar coming up behind him.
It's a foul ball. In the old days, if you had a guy with great speed, he ran.
Yes.
Now, the downside of losing a base runner is perceived to be so great that if you've got a slugger at the plate, you don't run your speed guys anymore. And sometimes almost the best place, and you wouldn't put Trout lower because he's such a great hitter, but sometimes the best place to put your fastest runners is further down behind the power guys, because then you don't worry about. Now obviously again with Trout you wouldn't do that. He's got to hit 1, 2, or 3, something like that.
And that's why first might be the best place for him to utilize all his talents. But then you're taking away the ability to drive in runs.
Right.
Or some of that ability because of, you know, even though they don't hit the pitcher in the American League, the 9th hitter's normally not a 300 hitter.
I think it's fascinating over this year and the coming years with these two guys where they will hit in the lineup. Here's a ball crushed. Teixeira hits a rocket into the second deck and right to tie the game. Much doubt about that one, Crockett.
No, that was gone when it left the bat, but that was a mistake by Garrett Richards. He was trying to get that ball down and away, and he got it up and in, or up, elevated. You know, Mark Teixeira's that left-handed hitter that can hit that elevated pitch out over the plate.
We're tied at 2 in the bottom of the 7th. The first home run allowed by Richards this season. Still frustrated.
He knows that home run's on him. That wasn't a cheap home run, but it was a pitch that he badly executed. And you know, when you have a guy like Mark Teixeira who hits 30 home runs seemingly every year, that's what they do with that pitch.
And now another high ball driven to deep right center. Well, this one will stay in the park just shy of the track for Trout.
I mean, could this be a sign of fatigue for Garrett Richards? A ball starting to get elevated. The Yankees are starting to hit the ball in the air.
104 pitches matches his season high. And Michael Kahn is up in the pen now for the Angels. The batter is Brian Roberts. Foul ball. So twice the Angels have led, twice the Yankees have tied it. The Angels romped to a 13-1 victory on Friday night. The Yankees came back with a 4-3 win yesterday afternoon, which featured the first major league home run for John Ryan Murphy, their catcher, who drove in 3 on the day. Another ball up in the air, but it'll be caught in right center by Cowgill. 2 down.
They had more balls in the air this inning than they did the whole game.
You're right.
And this is where you got to be careful with Ichiro. You get something elevated to him, even though he's not a home run hitter by numbers, he has the power to hit one out. And this is a situation where he might look to do this. 2 outs, tie game. You know, let's take a chance. First couple pitches, see if I can hook one in on that porch. 96 down and away will nullify that one.
Curveball misses. A ball and a strike. Ichiro with a strikeout and an RBI ground out tonight. On a play left side. 2 runs, 6 hits, and an error for the Angels. 2 runs, 3 hits, no errors for the Yankees. Mark Teixeira's long home run to right has tied the game here this inning. To the left side, caught by Stewart at third to end the inning. But the Yankees have tied it on the second home run of the season from Mark Teixeira, and there was no doubt about it from the moment it left the bat. Second deck, right field, tied at 2. Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell Breakfast, Wake Up, Live Moss, and in part by Volvo. Top 8 tied at 2. Howie Kendrick leads it off. Adam Warren still on the mound for the Yankees. It'll be Kendrick, Ibar, Freeze, 4, 5, and 6 in the Angel lineup. Kendrick has walked, grounded into a double play, and then was credited with a triple on a ball that Ichiro could not make a play on the warning track and left. There for a strike, 1-2. And missing down and away is Warren. So the line on Tanaka, 6 1/3, 2 runs earned on 5 hits. He walked 4, struck out 11. And because of the Teixeira home run, it'll be a no decision for Tanaka. So he'll remain 3-0. Two. Right in on his hands, and Kendrick fouls it off. Veteran left-hander Matt Thornton is now up in the Yankee pen.
The last thing you want here is the Yankees, Adam Warren especially, is Teixeira hits a home run, gets you back in the game, ties the game up, and now you have an even score. The last thing you want to do is walk Howie Kendrick to lead off the 8th inning. Well, the second to the last thing. First to the last thing, you don't want to give up a home run.
Teixeira's home run has tied it. And now on the Yankee side, it's in the hands of the bullpen. Warren pitching, Thornton warming. Got it. Well, as we mentioned, Tanaka will get a no decision tonight. Struggled with his command, but he did strike out 11.
Well, and the strikeouts are come by swings and misses, and balls not in the strike zone, and mostly on that splitter. And here they are. I mean, that's just a nasty one to Mike Trout. And Ibar again for the second time goes down on that split finger. Yeah, even though you know it's coming, or there's a great possibility of that pitch coming, you still train yourself to hit a fastball, and it looks like a fastball coming in, last second dropping out of the zone. That's why you get so many swings and misses. And we nitpicked the heck out of his start, but I mean, we're talking about his command was awful. He walked 4, hit 1, and struck out 11.
Well, like you said, he has set the bar high in his first 4 starts.
It's his fault. It's not ours.
No one to blame but himself.
Yeah.
There's Ibar, and the count's 2-0.
I mean, if he'd have walked like 7 guys in his first start, then we can say, wow, he's really made improvements. Look how great he's become. That's what happens when you're good early, Dan. That's why you got to stink early. A lot of room to grow and prosper in this business.
Got 46 strikeouts and 6 walks through 5 starts. And a 3-0 record and an ERA in the low 2s.
And he's awful. I mean, just terrible tonight. 2-2 game in the 8th. He was just brutal.
Ground ball to short. Jeter up with it. 2 down. And there's the line.
I don't think that warrant's getting sent down just yet. But
no, they'll give him one more.
They'll probably give him another, yeah. If he walks 4 again, his next one only gives up 2 runs, strikes out 11. By gosh, he's going down.
And the Yankees are off tomorrow, so he'll probably have the benefit of an extra day before his next start. And that would come against the Rays. Seattle's coming here to New York Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tampa Bay's in next weekend. The batter is David Freese, who homered his last time up.
He got a first pitch fastball by Tanaka. Jumped on it early, and that's what you have to do. And of course, lo and behold, he comes up for his next at bat, even though it's Adam Warren pitching. First pitch breaking ball. Oh, they're so predictable, Dan.
There's a good slider over the outside edge, 1-2. Freese, best known as the 2011 NLCS and World Series MVP. He's a member of the St. Louis Cardinals. The historic Game 6 with the triple to tie it in the 9th and the home run to win it in the 11th. Acquired in an offseason deal, Peter Borges going the other way. And Freese has struggled with the Angels, and Borges has struggled to hit with the Cardinals. Look at those numbers. That's in October for you.
21 RBIs. That'll work.
Hometown kid, St. Louis, right?
Yeah.
Picking up a ring. Close, but no.
I couldn't imagine the pressures of playing in your hometown, and this is a tough pitch right here to take. But K-Zone says it's a ball, and David Freese is right. Now he gets one more, but I think he's still going to get a breaking ball. Yep. Oh no!
Blew a fastball by him at 95. Inning over to the bottom of the 8th. Top of the order coming up for the Yanks in a tie game, including Derek Jeter due up second here in the Bronx. We go to the bottom of the 8th inning here in the Bronx. It's the Angels and the Yankees all tied up at 2. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Buster Olney with you on ESPN. Top of the order for the Yankees to face reliever Michael Kahn, who takes over after 7 very good innings by Garrett Richards tonight. And Kahn has thrown 11 consecutive scoreless outings.
He's the man.
Well, they need some quality work out of the bullpen.
And, winning the first game, losing the second game, and you don't want to lose a series, so you bring your best in, the guy who's been your hottest out of the bullpen in a tie game.
If they get to a save situation at some point in this game, it'll be Joe Smith getting the call. Ernesto Frieri has pitched himself out of the closer's job. Kahn and Smith are as reliable as it gets right now for Mike Scioscia. Here's Ellsbury 0 for 3. It'll be Ellsbury, Jeter, and Beltran.
Did you hear that sound that ball made when it hit Ionetta's glove? That sounded like a heavy ball.
A heavy ball.
Wow.
And hitters will tell you that some pitchers' fastballs, two guys can throw the same velocity, but especially guys with sinkers like Kevin Brown. Right?
Yeah.
A heavy ball. Roy Halladay at his peak, a heavy ball with the sinker. And It just didn't go anywhere when you hit it, right?
Just thud.
And ouch.
Yeah. It's like hitting a cantaloupe. It just makes a thud and it doesn't go anywhere.
Jeter on deck. You know, when you start to think of players who have had careers like Derek Jeter has had over 3,000 hits, but not only that, to do it with one team. There have not been many players, you know, a Ripken, a Gwynn, who you played with, a Jeter, as Ellsbury draws the walk. There have not been many players at all to have this kind of a career and do it all for one team.
No, and you think about not only that, Dan, to have the longevity, 3,000 hits, but think about every year but one or two of his career. Well, last year he couldn't play because he was injured, but 1 year coming into last year that he didn't play into October. I think we might see a bunt here. I think you got to try to get him over. And I know Derek's adept at hitting the ball the other way, but I think you got to try to get him over to second base. Unless Kahn's really slow to home, you're going to allow Ellsbury to steal and then let him hit a grounder to second. But you got to figure a way to get Ellsbury to second base here.
Ellsbury with 8 steals this season. Last year with the Boston was 52 of 56. And you can see his career numbers, 84%. Outstanding success rate.
And there's why Kahn is throwing over. He has a long arm, and it takes him a long time to deliver the ball to home plate.
He does show bunt. Pulls the bat back. And he takes a strike.
I mean, you can see right there. I understand the bunt and trying to get him over to second base, but after watching that first pitch, look how long it takes Kahn to deliver the ball to home plate. I mean, this is where you have a guy with 8 stolen bases. He led the league last year in stolen bases. It's the 8th inning of the game. If he can't steal base in the 8th inning off of Kahn, then there's some issues going on.
And they got to be clocking him, right? It's time to the plate.
Absolutely. Mick Kelleher's on that one. The killer.
Mick Kelleher, the first base coach for the Yankees.
Coached me in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
I am what I am today because of Mick. I'm not sure Mick knows how to use the watch, but I mean, he carries one. No, Mick Steves. I tell you, he's a great infield instructor. High energy guy. You'd love to be around him. Always positive.
Activity in the Angels' pen.
This is Kahn's, you can boo all you want, but this is Kahn's only recourse in trying to keep Ellsbury from stealing is throw over, step off, hold the ball, because he's so long to home, he has no choice. But I still think I'm sending him.
Even 0-1, or are you worried about a pitch
Whenever.
out? Not worried about a pitch out here?
Well, maybe not this pitch right here, but he should go in this at bat.
They pitch out, not going. A ball and a strike.
Well, you are on top of things. You must have watched a game or two.
But now you got to go.
Well,
or do you?
Well, it depends on how much Mike Scioscia fears Derek Jeter. Does he have the guts to throw another pitch out? Thinking that, okay, we missed on this one, but we might get him on another one, on this next one. And then that's the thing. You see how easily Ellsbury's getting back. And Kahn looks like he's throwing his A move over there to first base.
Going and fouled off by Jeter.
I mean, that was a straight steal by Ellsbury, and I guess Derek thought that was one he could handle and try to hit that other way and try to get a first to third situation.
But you're saying you got to take a pitch even if it's a strike.
You hate to have to take a pitch to get to your second strike,
yeah.
But I think Derek should be able to trust himself enough that he can still put the ball in play and get Ellsbury over to third if he does steal it.
No swing. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Could you imagine if he said that was a swing?
Now, do you send him 2-2 as we get another look at the side swing here? Looked like he checked it. You got to believe he's going to go if it gets to 3-2, but do you think he'll go on this pitch?
I think so. They keep booing, but he hasn't stolen yet, so he's doing something right.
Tie game, bottom 8. Not going. And Jeter swings through it and is gone. So they don't get the steal, they don't get the bunt. An at-bat that does not result in anything positive for the Yankees.
Yeah, and with this situation with Beltran up, do you give him a strike to hit the hole between first and second? I say no. You got McCann coming up. You have your 2 lefties coming up.
Bottom 8 tie game. Tanaka and Richards were the starters. It's a 2-2 tie. And the batter is Beltran, who takes high. David Freese is homered for the Angels. Mark Teixeira homered in the bottom of the 7th to tie it for the Yankees. Tanaka with 11 strikeouts through 6 1/3 to give up 2 runs on 5 hits, walked 4. Gilbert Richards 7 innings, only 3 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. 1 on, 1 out as Khan falls behind 2-0 on the always dangerous Carlos Beltran, with left-hander Nick Miranda and right-hander Kevin Jepsen up in the Angel pen.
And this is where you don't want Ellsbury to go. You got a 2-0 count. You got a guy with pull power like Carlos Beltran can. You don't want him to be even thinking about hearing Albert Pujols yell he's going and maybe take a late swing, a bad swing.
3-0.
And I green light him. Green light him because McCann hasn't swung the bat well. Soriano hasn't swung the bat well in this game. Of course, that was off Garrett Richards, but I still think you still green light Beltran right here.
And you think that's the message from Mike Butcher? Don't assume he's taking.
Yeah, I would firmly believe it is, because they have numerous guys in this lineup that can hurt you with power, but this is the guy to me that I would be more afraid of than right now. Just by the way you've seen these guys swing tonight, McCann and Soriano.
Third and final game of this series. Each team has won 1 so far. Angels got a run in the 4th. Yankees answered in the 5th. Angels got a run in the 6th. Yankees answered in the 7th. Now trying to take their first lead of the night.
I'm sure if they think Ellsbury's running 3-0.
Ball 4. Second walk given up this inning by Khan, and that's going to be all. Mike Scioscia wants the left-hander to face Brian McCann. So we will step aside. Mirande on his win to face McCann, with the Yankees threatening here in the bottom of the 8th. Welcome back to the Bronx. We are in the bottom of the 8th inning here at Yankee Stadium, and that's Brian McCann surveying the situation, checking out Nick Miranda, the left-hander who's just come into the game for Mike Scioscia, with runners at first and second and only one out as the Yankees try to break the tie. Miranda has spent parts of each of the last 2 seasons with the Angels, also has already been up and down with them this year, has pitched in each of the last 2 games for the Angels. And very likely, Crucky, could be a one-batter appearance here for Miranda.
Yeah, depending on the situation, if Brian McCann hits into if he grounds out and the runners advance, they might walk Soriano to make Teixeira hit right-handed, which he's a lot better left-handed than he is right. So, I mean, the ideal situation is to try to throw a slider down the way and hope McCann rolls over, get a double play, and you don't have to worry about the rest of it.
Shift on, big hole on the left side. Great speed at second in Ellsbury. Beltran's at first, 1 down. And again, not to belabor the point, but the bullpen has been the biggest problem that the Angels have had this season. And that ball squirts through to the backstop, and both runners will advance. And a pass ball is the call, and you can see why.
I mean, it's just two-seam fastball. It looked like it ran over the center of the plate.
It was a strike.
Yeah. It was right down the middle.
A pass ball on strike 1. Infield in. And McCann chases, and the count is 1-2.
I mean, that pitch was one of those, if he didn't glove it at all, it would have hit his body. But the glove redirected it between the 5-hole, Dan, which is a hockey Canadian term that you love.
Nicely done.
Oh, thank you. It's playoff time.
Fouled off by McCann. Just thinking fly ball. Just thinking to get a run home here.
I'd be thinking ground ball to shortstop. With the infielders in.
And nobody there.
No one there. I mean, let's CB Buckner decides to put a glove on. Which stranger things have happened.
Soriano on deck.
I mean, especially that slow curveball. It's such an easy pitch just to, hit a grounder to short on for a left-handed hitter.
Fouled off again.
But you can see, I mean, McCann is out in front of every single one of these pitches because I think the temptation of a short porch.
I think Ellsbury's coming home on contact. He was flying down the line there.
Yeah. I mean, you either want to hit in this situation, sometimes you tell yourself with the speed guy on third base is, hit a fly ball to get him in or hit a chopper.
Got a piece, and he's still alive. Waiting on deck, Soriano. Jepson ready if needed in the Angel pen.
I'm looking protected against a fastball, but thinking breaking ball right here. You just try to hit it in the outfield somewhere. Problem is McCann has a nice little rollover swing working right now.
And Ibar, Kendrick, and Pujols ganging up on him on the right side of the infield in case he does. In the dirt, bounces away. Ellsbury comes home, and the Yankees lead. So 2 walks, a pass ball, and a wild pitch this inning.
Yeah, and this is just a spiked slider. You see the slider spin, and he just spiked it. And Iannetta did all he can do, but that's one that bounces back in the other direction.
Now, did it hit him?
I don't think it hit him. No.
I don't think it hit him. Well, Scioscia's saying ball 3.
We're getting replayed, Danny boy.
Does McCann think that's ball 4?
No,
does
he
McCann
said it
think that hit him?
He said it hit his left arm. And he signaled to Girardi to go talk to him.
Yep. And you can review whether a batter was hit by a pitch. But did Bill Welke point down to first? I never saw the home plate umpire send him down to first.
McCann just ran down. It hit him. Why aren't they reviewing this?
So the call has gone the Angels' way here.
And I think Joe finally got all the replays.
Yeah.
Said, wait a second, you got to look at this. I know it's up. Isn't it up to them? Isn't it up to the umpires now to review this? There we go. Well, that didn't take long.
So home plate umpire Bill Welke, first base umpire Dan Iasonia over to put the headsets on and talk to the folks in the replay command center to see if they overturn this call and award McCann first base. Was it the left forearm or wrist? Yeah, the left forearm.
The left forearm.
Yep, it hit him.
Didn't you hear me when I said that?
I did.
Sometimes you need to listen to
me. I was
me.
every now and again.
You might be enlightened. It's not all fun and games, Danny boy. I think when they see this is okay, here's where the issue is now, because they're going to replay. They're going to say, okay, you got hit, go to first, and then Jepson's going to come in the game, and we're going to have more sponsor time.
It should be a fairly quick one, you would think.
McCann was standing at first base, and then now he's got his bat.
He's watching it on the scoreboard. This is one of the things baseball has decided to do when they review a play. They will show the play on the jumbotrons at ballparks to show it to the fans.
Yeah. Well, they can do it now because they can reverse the call, but before they had replay, that was not allowed. And
so they just showed it. Now they're telling everybody the play is under review. And remember, the doctrine by which baseball is doing this is there clear and convincing evidence to overturn the call. The call on the field was ball 3. Bill Welke never sent Brian McCann down to first. Brian McCann just went down to first. So the call on the field was ball 3. So they're going to need to feel there was clear and convincing evidence to overturn it and award him first base. It did appear to be pretty clear and convincing.
I think it hit him.
Yeah, I think the best shot we had was from center field in slow-mo. This one here, where the ball appears to change direction.
Yes, changed direction.
Yeah, you can see where in the glove
and
that it was caught.
And Brian McCann's not one of those to feign getting hit by a pitch to take his base.
So they overturn it, and it goes the Yankees' way. Now Mike Scioscia wants a little explanation.
Well, he might as well keep going. There you go.
And the pitching change.
This has got to be frustrating for the Angels.
So we'll step aside. The Yankees have taken the lead, and they are threatening to add to their lead here in the bottom of the 8th. Up next on SportsCenter, the Warriors tie the series against the Clippers at 2-2. Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan among those with some very strong opinions on Clippers owner Donald Sterling, and the Sunday conversation with Masahiro Tanaka, courtesy of Buster Olney. Meanwhile, Kevin Jepsen is into the game for the Angels. First and third, 1 out, 3-2 Yankees, and the batter is Alfonso Soriano. Jepsen, the 4th pitcher of the ninth, the 3rd pitcher of the inning for the Angels. He gave up 5 runs in his first appearance of the season, Crocky, and has not given up a run since. 9 straight scoreless outings after an ugly first one. Came out of that first game with an ERA of 67.5. That's what happens when you're a reliever and you have an ugly first one. But it's been much, much, much better since. He did not go, they say, on the appeal down to first. And it is 2 balls and a strike on Soriano.
This is where Jepson has to be careful. He just spiked the breaking ball, so the chances are 2-1. He's not going to throw another one, but he has to get the ball down in the zone and try to induce a ground ball. If he elevates it, Soriano can hit that ball into the outfield.
Out of the strike zone, up high with a fastball, 3-1. Meanwhile, with the Yankees now having a lead and looking at a safe situation in the 9th inning, it's David Robertson, back off the DL a few days ago, their closer. Got a pitch to hit there.
Well, he sure did. Fastball center cut, elevated.
Beltran at third, McCann at first. A run in, 1 out. Yankees up 3-2. Teixeira, who homered his last time up, is on deck.
I just don't think Jepson and Iannetta can throw another breaking ball right here. They can't risk it.
Ground ball to short for 1 and 2 to win the inning. The Yankees, though, do get a run. A pass ball, then a wild pitch, and a 1-run lead for the Yankees going to the 9th inning. David Robertson will be coming on to try to protect that lead. And welcome back to New York. We are here in the Bronx, not that far from Manhattan, watching a good ball game. 3-2. The Yankees leading. David Freese's home run in the 6th gave the Angels a 2-1 lead. But then an inning later, bottom of the 7th, Mark Teixeira with 1 swing of the bat tied it up with a second deck home run into right. The Yankees got a run without the benefit of a hit in the bottom of the 8th inning. That wild pitch bringing in the go-ahead run. And now we go to the 9th. The Yankees up 3-2, and David Robertson is into the game, trying to get the final 3 outs and pick up another save. Robertson recently spent some time on the DL with a groin strain, just came off the DL less than a week ago. And scheduled for the Angels, the bottom third of the order, Ian Stewart, Chris Iannetta, and J.B. Shuck. And the big pitch for David Robertson, the cutter.
Shocker. The Yankee closer for the last 18 years or however long Mariano was there as closing they're still throwing cutters. It's a tough pitch to figure out.
Yeah. If you're a left-handed batter, he's going to try to bury it right in on your hands. A strike.
I never understood why left-handed hitters just didn't back off the plate and make them try to chase you with the cutter to try to get it in. And if it is, it's a ball. But they tell me that Mariano's cutter broke so late that it didn't matter where they stood.
It's a slower breaking ball. It's a ball and a strike. Well, keep an eye on whether Raul Ibanez is available, the former Yankee. He is an Angel now, and a guy who had great success in this ballpark in the postseason for the Yankees a couple of years ago, but he is reportedly under the weather. And we are not sure if he is available to pinch hit in this game should Mike Scioscia want him. Cutter down and in, ball 2. The Yankees have just 3 hits tonight, but have a chance to win this game.
Well, last thing, they didn't even need bats. Walk, wild pitch.
Hit batter, pass ball. 2-2. And now that it goes to a 2-strike count, as Mike Scioscia checks out his options, just a 3-man bench for both teams. With 2 strikes now, Jeter, who had been playing in and closer to the line, now backs up closer to his normal shortstop position. And there's strike 3 call. And no doubt about it.
Again, it's a cutter, and you see Stewart right here. He just gives up on it. He thinks it's away, and it cuts over the outside part of the plate. And that's the hardest thing to do as a hitter, to tell your mind that what your eye sees is wrong. Because you see that ball's away, but you know it's going to come back eventually.
Here's Iannetta. So Iannetta batting, and Schuck out of the on-deck circle, so presumably no Ibanez.
Or Hank Conger. He has some pop from his switch hitter, but left side he has some pop.
Oh, 0-2. Robertson coming right at him. There's Conger. A long flight home when you're up late, you've been having bullpen issues, and you lose another lead, then a combination of a walk, a hit batter, a pass ball, and a wild pitch gives up a run in the bottom of the 8th. A game of some missed opportunities for the Angels early when Tanaka was struggling with his command in the early innings of the game. And they couldn't really get that one break it open hit. Got it. Oh, nope. Squirted out of the glove of McCann, I beg your pardon. So Iannetta is still up there.
Oh, Tanaka got in trouble though, Dan. He went to the split, and you saw how difficult that is to hit. When he needed it, when he needed a strikeout, he got it. Got the highest scoring team in the American League, and you pitched your worst game as a major league player, and you still only gave up 2 runs and struck out 11.
Sports Center next here on ESPN. A look at all the day's action around the majors, and a lot of excitement in the NBA playoffs as well. Just outside.
How can those people know if that's a ball or a strike? I mean, watch McCann. He just catches it and throws it back. He's not complaining. He caught it.
Out of play. Tomorrow night, more Major League action for you on ESPN. We'll have the A's and the Rangers on Monday Night Baseball. Wednesday night, the Rays and the Red Sox. And a week from tonight, we'll be at Wrigley Field. And we'll be in the bleachers at Wrigley Field, broadcasting the game from there as the Cubs host the Cardinals. 8th pitch coming in the at-bat. Now that one is a tough take and a tough pitch to take. And David Robertson, who doesn't show a lot of emotion out there, I mean, hopped up and down because he thought this was strike three.
It's not a tough pitch to take because you can't hit it. And so that's why you have to take it, because there's nothing you can do with it if you do put it in play. But that was too close for comfort. I'd say if I'm Iannetta, I'm being a little more aggressive here.
Out of play, and we will see pitch number 10. And he draws the walk. How about that? And we're going to get a pinch runner. John McDonald is out to run for Iannetta. Go ahead run to the plate. J.B. Shuck. There's Ibanez, who we were talking about a little bit earlier. Shuck will bat. Number 9 hitter in the Angel lineup. And a strike. McDonald, in all likelihood, not a threat to try to steal in this situation. Just probably better at maybe breaking up a double play or scoring from first on a gapper, that kind of thing. More speed than Iannetta.
Yeah, and this is where the cutter can become a pitch. It's not the Mariano cutter, because you can get jammed and still hit it in that hole between first and second. Or swing that late.
If it holds up, Adam Warren gets the win. Michael Kahn takes the loss. If it holds up, the Yankees go to 15-10 on the season. Now give these Angel hitters credit. They're battling.
They are fighting them. But that's the difference between a guy like Robertson and a guy like Tanaka. Robertson has a breaking ball and a cutter, and Tanaka has 52 pitches other than that.
Check swing. Appeal. No swing. Ball 1. Robertson's already had to throw 19 pitches. He struck out Stewart in a 10-pitch plate appearance. He eventually walked Chris Iannetta, and now 1-2 on Shuck. Ranging to his left is Roberts, and they'll get the out on Shuck. 2 down, and McDonald into second. And here comes Ibanez. Ibanez breaking into the big leagues in 1996 as a member of the Seattle Mariners. He is 41 years of age, best known here in New York for the home runs that he hit in the American League Division Series in 2012 in this ballpark against the Baltimore Orioles. In Game 3, he hit a home run in the 9th inning to tie it and a home run in the 12th inning to win it. And he's thinking short porch. And if you're Robertson, as much as you know Ibanez can hurt you, you got that guy on deck.
Yeah, there's no pitch around here.
No.
But that was the pitch right there for Raul. You know, as a pinch hitter, I always like to go up and look first pitch fastball and let it fly because they're trying to get ahead. They think you're stiff and
didn't go.
You know, they think you want to track a pitch or whatever they call it now. But you know, Raul's been around long enough and smart enough to know what David Robertson throws. You don't need to track anything.
Angels down to their final out here in the 9th inning of the Bronx. Tying run at second. Late on it, fouled it back, 1-2. Yes, he did. And the Yankees win it. So the Yankees take 2 out of 3 in this weekend series with the Angels and go to 15-10 on the season. The Angels drop to 11-13. You can catch up on all the latest baseball news with the Baseball Tonight tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. Then it's the A's and the Rangers at 8 o'clock Eastern from Arlington. Sports Center is next to tonight. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For John Kruk and Buster Olney, I'm Dan Shulman saying thanks for watching and so long from the Bronx.